Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cactus Patch. I'm your host, GlitchedCactus, but you can call me Cactus. And today we have a very exciting episode for you all here today. We're going to be discussing the state of top level with none other than arguably one of the best top level Carbon players out there, Volty. Volty, how are you doing today?
I'm chilling. What about you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a long day, but we're here, we're ready.
Nice, man.
So, for those who are maybe for some reason don't know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm a carbon one trick. I think it kind of tells by my name, Volty Carbone. Um, you could say I'm like a top player since like 4 years now. Recently French champion. I think that's pretty much it.
That's W. That's base. French champion. I love that. Um, what kind of got you into Splatoon from the get go? Did you start like OG Splatoon 1? Did you look to it as Splatoon 2? Like, what was take me a little bit to like what got you into this game?
So originally I didn't like the game when I was like young, like
Hmm.
Splatoon 1. But as I played Monster Hunter, which it seems like a lot of French players got on the game through Monster Hunter, a friend of mine like invited me to play some twins on Splatoon and got me into the game. So for the first game I played like only casually. I had no clue of comp, no clue of what was going on.
Hmm.
And then on Splatoon 2, I decided to take things a bit more seriously, and that's where like my small little journey started.
Okay. What kind of drew you into competitive?
For competitive, so this is gonna sound a bit funny.
Hmm.
Back then, um, Octoboy used to do 1v1s on his YouTube channel
Okay.
with like other content creators, and one of them was promoting one of his like competitive team called the CO back then.
Hmm.
Was pretty popular, and they were making content, and I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. Like, I'd like to play this game for more than just like S plus 99,
Yeah.
and that's how I got like interested into comp.
That's pretty cool. That's such a unique way to get into it. Like most people, like a lot of times someone will ask, they'll be like, "Oh, like I picked it up and I liked it one day, or someone showed me it." But that's such a really cool way of like getting into competitive, um, is through like watching like content. That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like most people I know, they either got into comp like like I'm actually surprised. I don't know what's dragging like everything into the community because I've been seeing like a lot of what's it called? Like a lot of new comp players
Hmm.
who are like extremely recent. And I'm like wondering who showed them? Like who's like showing them?
Yeah, who's leading them into the scene right
Yeah,
now?
who's leading the game? Like who's like I don't know. Because like you could argue that the competitive like side of the game recently has been pretty bad. Like
Hmm.
with a lot of like dramas happening and all of that.
Yeah.
You could think that like people would be a bit like scared or not interested in the game. But then you see like waves of new players, especially on like I guess like the low level tourneys are like extremely popular. Like you see like such an increase in demand,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I'm like, damn, those tourneys are doing like really good compared to like a few years back.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first got into competitive, like kind of towards like the middle to end of S2, how there was like there was nowhere near as much as there is now.
Yeah, I think the only one I remember was Lowink. I remember playing
Yeah.
Lowink when I was like Div 4. That's the only like low level tourney I remember that was like kind of known by everyone.
Hmm.
But like nowadays you see like so much like I know it's like SAC, like all those kind of like tournaments who bring in like the new player base. And like I'm genuinely wondering like where are all these guys coming from? like
Yeah.
like what's happening?
I think something I love about like the wave is seeing like thinking about like the content purposes of it. Like it's gotta be from like content creators, right? Obviously like the YouTubers, the maybe someone just
Yeah, for
casually
sure.
comes to it on Twitch and they see the game and somehow fall into the trap of like, oh, this game has a competitive side. I gotta try it.
Yeah. And I guess you could also say like compared to other games, like if we take for example like I don't know like the big games like I don't know League of Legends, Valorant and such,
Yeah.
I think like that competitive scene is like so hard to access compared to like Splatoon. I feel like Splatoon is like very accessible. The top players are usually like really responsive to DMs.
Yeah.
Like you can get a lot of information as a casual for pretty much free, right? Like
Yeah, exactly. Because like, and that's not like other games where like the top players are like too busy with like crazy sponsor deals or
yeah,
flying
like
around to other tournaments.
you it's like you'll never see like a silver player DMing Faker being like, "Hey man, how do I play the game?" Like
Exactly. The only, I guess the only bridge you have for when it comes for Splatoon is like if it's a player that speaks like a different language, like if like a new NA beginner tries to reach out to like Melon,
yeah, yeah.
right? It's like maybe there's like some conflict there, but besides that, yeah, like most of like all of across from low to top level, there everyone's pretty like communicative.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like I know like with like the surge of JPs,
Mm.
I don't know if you've seen like there's so many people like translating streams, translating everything. Like I feel like the information is like really accessible, and even like most of like the top players, I feel like they're pretty responsive in Japan, unless like they don't like us. But
Yeah.
I mean, it tends to happen, but not at like a really high level.
Hmm.
Usually, the haters of like Westerners are like the low, the low level of top players, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like the kind of like the I like to call it,
Like
like the
the entry
bridge.
level.
Yeah, like right into the entrance of top level versus those who
Yeah,
have
yeah,
been
yeah.
like at the high end of it. I think too. There's also I forget the name of that YouTuber, but there was a YouTuber who recently came out with this like um live translator that like you add it to like I guess
Oh,
Discord.
that's Quackity.
Yes, yes, Crackly ad. I remember seeing that on like Twitter, and I was like, this is incredible. Like this could change the game for a lot of competitive standpoints too for other games, especially Splatoon, where like there's just like that separation from like JP versus Western that I feel like could just be bridged with that. But obviously, right now it's still in its like beginning phase, so there's no real telling right away. Let's see. All right, so this is going to kind of carry off for those maybe who are watching off of the podcast that was a few days ago. And it's a topic I really wanted to cover myself at some point as well, just because I feel like I have a lot of strong like thoughts and opinions on it as well. But obviously we have Volty here today to kind of pick their brain about a lot of topics that Popgun had brought up. The first one really being the whole too many tourneys. And I know like for you Volty this might be a little challenging because I know Top Level doesn't have a lot of tournaments right now, right? It's mainly like
Yeah.
the occasional from like IPL or Dapple. You have Kyo's Glaze Gauntlets whenever, Chara's like um, gimmick tournaments whenever they pop up. So I guess the question for you is like, seeing how low level, mid level just have so many tournaments. Do you feel that when it comes to trying to get better, do you think there's just too
Yeah.
many options when it comes to like the weeklies and not enough like majors?
Okay. I think there can be multiple opinions about this, right?
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
think the major one will be you could argue like instead of doing a lot of mid-level tourneys, we should just get like bigger ones with like trying to attract more people. But at the same time, there's a small issue because of time zones, first of all,
Yeah.
and of accessibility, right? Like for example, Alice, which like hosts paddling pool.
Hmm.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think they're German. So they're like they run the tournament on like EU times, right?
Yeah.
But like for example, most NA people will probably not play a paddling pool, right? Like
Hmm.
it will not be able to,
Yeah.
or it'd have to be extremely uh extremely available for that tournament.
Hmm. Yeah, I could vouch for that. Someone who lives NA and like works during the time of battling pool. I'm like, if I'm gonna ever want to play in this, I gotta like request off.
Yeah, exactly. But like okay, for like example of what I think we could do is
Hmm.
like dedicate a lower amount of the production to like mid level while not abandoning it.
Hmm.
Just make like like you know how we used to have like Monday after party, Saturday morning coffee,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like those kind of tournaments where like good teams will participate, but like it will still be like enough tournaments for everyone to play, but not too much to a point where like there's a big like division of players, because it has to stay competitive at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like if we're being honest, right, if you play a weekly tournament which has no art prize, no money, right, the
Mhm.
goal is to get better. So if you want to get better, you need the tournament to be somewhat competitive, right? Like it needs to
Yeah.
have like good level. The issue is like if we host too much tournaments at the same times for the same like player base, the issue is that like we get too much people playing different stuff. And I think what could be done will be like just overall, you take a big tournament, put it like, you know how Fright Basket functions?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, basically we could do that to like have like an accessible hour for both regions, and just make it like put a little badge, like the normal like mid-level type stuff,
Mhm.
and try to get like I don't know how to explain, but like try to make people play it basically, because that's the biggest issue right now with tournaments. I feel like is like there's so many good little gems, but they don't get in the spotlight at all because there's too much. There's too much. It's
Yeah.
so hard for a tournament to be original if you have no top players advocating for it, if you don't have like connections, followers on Twitter, or like whatever, right? It's so hard. Like even the Sendu calendar gets like flooded.
Yeah, like I'm even looking at the Sendu calendar now because I was gonna try to like bring up Fry Basket and like find it to like give like for to explain it through it, and I'm like, I have to scroll through so many different types of tournaments because there's
Yeah.
just so many, and they're all really are rinse and repeat. It's like you play this, you get a badge. That's it.
Hey, you play this, you get a badge. That's it. There's no competitivity. It's
Yeah.
just a tournament who's there for a badge. There's
Mhm.
no there's no real goal. It's just a badge. And realistically, it's cool. You know, you can get badges. Like okay, cool. You get your little like profile badge.
Yeah.
But realistically, as a competitive player, what do you get?
Mhm.
Like the badge doesn't really show that you're better at the game. If you're doing a tournament with like 5 teams, you
Mhm.
just spend like 2 hours of your life getting a badge, which is fine. Like I'm not like I'm not saying it's bad. Like some people don't play for like insane competitive goals. Like not everyone has the same goals, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Which
And
is like why those tournaments have to exist,
yeah.
but not as much.
Mhm. No, 100%.
Because yeah,
Yeah, because
because
something
it
I thought.
comes.
No, sorry, after you.
Sorry.
No,
Go
after you.
ahead. Go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say it's like because there's so many like tournaments where it's like there's just spitting out badges, and because the weeklies are kind of so heavily focused in the Splatoon community, we see players with like up to 10 plus badges of the same of this from the same tournament, and most players aren't going to be looking at, you know, how like who else was in that tournament, right? They might see like a paddling pool win and it's like, oh, that's really cool. But because they're so kind of drowned out now, and because there's so many, badges kind of feel to me useless. They feel overdrawn, they feel overdone. Like everyone's gonna have some form of badge, especially if they're grinding this game whenever they can and competing in whatever
Yeah, I agree.
tournaments. So it's like the badges at one point held some kind of status. They held that you were good at this game. But at some point, when you just start getting so many of the same badge, it really just begs different like, okay, yeah, but like who is playing in it? But I don't really want to know who's playing it because it's a lot of time waste, and people just want to see quickly like if it's worth it or not, if that player who really got it deserved it based on who else was playing in those tournaments.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest issue comes back to like the like the classic question of like requests and like uh how do you call that? I forgot the name in English. It's like the request and supply. I think that's how it's called.
Oh,
Because like if
supply
there's
demand. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, if there's too much supply for too low demand,
yeah.
I mean it's kind of like you kind of like the market's kind of fucked, right? Because like
Yeah.
there's more badges than there's like people playing the tournament with badges, right?
Yeah.
So you end up with like 14 tournaments, 14 different badges. Each tournament has like 6 teams minimum. The tournament will never get the traction it deserves because there's 17 like copy pasted same things, right?
Yeah.
With the nearly same format. And like it doesn't really bring anything. Instead of like those 14 tournament creators collaborating together and then being like, oh, let's make something bigger. Like,
Mhm.
let's fuse all our like player base of our tournaments who usually come to like play our tournament, and let's try to do something. Oh, you maybe know an artist that will be down to get an art prize for a tournament. Oh, let's like collaborate with them. Let's put some like put in the spotlight. Let's DM Pro Chara. Let's ask him to like be like, oh, Pro Chara, could you talk about this tournament? Like, we just made it. It's like kind of huge. We're trying to make it something big. Get in touch with like the other TOs and be like, oh, is it will the ID work in the long term and such, right?
Yeah. No,
I feel
absolutely.
like people just skip all those steps nowadays. They just make a tourney kind of randomly, slap a badge, and be like, "Oh, it's done and ready."
Yeah. Yeah, that was my biggest gripe when I was like even just thinking about the topic for this because like that's something I when I got like 5 minutes talk with Popcorn or say my thoughts in the podcast was that like there's too many individuals trying to all do the same thing and want to be known as maybe not like they're not saying it, but the way that how many tournaments we have that are such copy paste, it kind of shows that they want to be the ones to have that next big tournament. And you can't do that by yourself, and you can't not everyone can do it. You're not going to be the next Lowink. You're not going to be the next, Glaze Gauntlet, the next, if you're talking low level, Little Squid League. You have to compromise. You have to work with other players, other TOs in these smaller orgs and these smaller tournaments that want to be held. So you're able to put more effort into that, whether that's production, whether that's prizes, whether that's staffing, for that matter. They everyone just kind of like you said, because of how also Sendu makes it so easy to run a tournament, anybody could just make one, get a badge, call it a day, and just hope they get the numbers for it.
Hello?
Hi, yes.
Did you did you mute or something?
Did I might have, I wonder if I cut out. It's okay. I can repeat. Um,
No,
but
I heard what you said. I heard what you said. I heard what you said.
okay.
Don't worry
But
about it. It's just like okay.
mhm,
So to like join your point, right?
yeah,
It's kind of what I was saying is like people cannot like sadly unless you're like super popular, super known, kind of
yeah,
like Kyo does with Glazed Gauntlet,
mhm,
you can't really like unless your tournament's been like OG tourneys, like everyone knows your stuff, like you're not really gonna compete with a whole fucking production, right?
yeah,
Like
no,
that's
yeah,
so tough. If you're new to the market on tournaments, you're not gonna just make a tourney that like just magically pleases everyone, like with a good format, with a good like I like just respect of time. The
mhm,
tournament's not gonna last like 7 hours and stuff. And like I feel like that's why TOs should collaborate. Because like if everyone just gets along, they can make something way more big because then everyone gets to like invest their time properly in the tournament, right?
yeah, definitely,
Instead of just like putting tourneys, we just get a big better one every now and then and put it on like good days instead of spamming tourneys like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Put one on like Monday night. Put one on like Wednesday night. We already have paddling pool.
mhm,
Put one on like most tourneys will be hosted on Saturday, Sunday because that's when people don't work,
yeah,
and that's like basically for a tourney holder. I think it's like kind of god spot to get like the weekend, but it's like there's such a big like rivalry, even though there's no real rivalry. Like everyone's chilling in the scene, right?
yeah, 100
But
percent.
like, let's be honest, getting the privilege to host a tournament on a Saturday and everyone plays it, that's like the jackpot for like the tourney holder. Like he
Yeah,
knows he's gonna get players because it's
100%.
Saturday, everyone's here, everyone can play no matter the time zone. And if the tourney is good, like Fry Basket, it's huge. You get all the good teams. You even get JPs because they don't have school.
Yeah,
Like that's huge, right? That's why I think to the like it's a trade-off, right? Like I stand by the logic of equivalent exchange. We have to
mhm,
like remove too much tourneys for the exchange of getting better tourneys. I think we're not in a game that is big enough to be able to have a lot of tourneys with good quality. We have
yeah,
to prioritize quality over quantity.
yes,
I
absolutely.
think that's the biggest issue right now.
I completely agree, and I'm gonna keep referencing Popcorn probably throughout this entire thing because he just hit so many great points that I like to me I wanted to hit. A big one is also like, what is your tournament for? Like, what are you even making it for? Is it for low level? Is it for a new experience? Is it for gimmick? It's like, what are you trying to make your tournament for? And something that I saw a lot of, or thought of, like just while we were talking, is that a lot of these tournaments are aimed towards the same kind of genre of like low to mid level uh divisions and players and teams. When right now it's like that's a whole gray area. We don't need more gray area tournaments. If anyone wants to try to push tournaments out for only low level or only mid level,
Yeah.
which I think what we should do is that like just let's make that 3 to 4 to 5 group range. Stop piling up Div 5 and up and Div 4 to like 2 or 1, and then top level where you should have like low level should be split into 2 to 3 groups. Then you'll have your mid level, then you have your high level and top level. Instead of now it's like a huge gray area and then it funnels finally through. Because right now everyone's doing that. They're just copy pasting low ink pretty much and just hoping that, hey, if you win my tournament enough times, I'll just ban you. And
Yeah.
it's like it's just not working.
I mean, then it becomes just a popularity contest instead of like a real proof of like level. That's the
Yeah,
issue.
exactly. And that's what we need. Like you said, we need quality over quantity for it.
Yeah.
So everyone just needs to commit more time. And if you have to kind of give up on your specific tournament idea, like you might just have to take that L for now until you can improve the quality of your tournament, of the tournament to help someone else's grow that
Yeah.
has a better idea, a better sense of direction that can challenge the others, right? And that's something that was brought up too with Popgun is that he's open for people to challenge the time slots. If you're gonna have better production, if maybe you're gonna have a prize pool that other like regular like I don't know what do they run like proving grounds won't. That's your time. Like put in your production, put up your prize pool. People want to play in something that has an initiative like a prize pool, whether that's an art prize or
Yeah.
cash prize, so that they can actually work towards something and know like when I see that tournament again next time, I'm gonna grind till I can win that specific tournament.
Oh, I agree. Someone in the chat asked like, "What's high quality?" I think that's a fair question because
Mhm.
it's such a like
A
it kind
broad
of
answer.
like yeah it like it can be anything. In my opinion, as a I know this is like really high standards, and I'm not asking people to do the same, right?
Mhm.
As a player who has participated in I think the best Splatoon 3 tournament when it comes to production, like Resurgence League, for example, right?
Mhm.
I think there's two issues in the game right now. If you want good production, you need teams.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our fault. That's on us. You can't blame the tournament makers. That's on the top players for not wanting to commit to teams, which will be an issue I will come back to a bit later.
Yeah, absolutely.
The production of Ink TV Resurgence League made sets hype. A
Mhm.
set that is already hype, a set that is already like talking about the best players of the scene, and then you add to that you add a rivalry of like star like I remember playing against Starburst, and the day prior to the event they do like this little introduction being like Starburst undefeated for like this amount of fucking days, like the best team in
Yes.
NA, and I'm like I have to play against these guys, and then they
Yeah.
go like Iron Shrug, the underdogs with their new players, and like it's so hype because you get first of all people who don't know shit about the game, they get to know who's new, what's the rosters, what's their like history of like victories or like upsets or like what they've done for the game,
Mhm.
and just overall you're just like you're discovering new stuff. People are like you can bring more people to watch because it's genuinely entertaining, and I think that's what made it so good. But like I said, I'm not expecting people to be on that level because that took a shit ton of investment.
Yeah.
But like I think what's it called? I think uh tournaments should try to push for storylines if they see a team kind of dominates their tourneys or comes back multiple times on a consistent basis. Try to like put them in the spotlight and make it like, oh, like this week we have this team who seems good. Will they be able to like beat this team who has won this prior version, this prior version? And if you can, if you have the capacity to, put like a little bounty on them. But like if you beat those guys, you get I don't know, you get like I don't know, like if you have a friend who does art or like whatever, like $5 or just like the smallest thing, right?
Yeah.
Just be like, if you if you shut down their win streak, you get this and the badge.
Mhm.
Good luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
we need to emphasize the fact that people need to have an objective. I know low level usually is kind of lost because
Mhm.
we've all been in low level. We don't really know what to do, where to begin.
Yeah.
I think it could be a good push towards like a goal. Like, oh, we play this tournament every week, guys. This team's been winning like consistently. Let's try to beat them. Let's try to get the bounty. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's like a short
absolutely.
term goal to become better. Of course, those teams will be like, oh, on a short term goal, they want to like, oh, I want to beat this team. And on a long term, they're gonna be like, oh, I want to become the team who needs to get like shut down, right?
Mhm.
And I think that could be cool. But like that's one of many, many ways of like making a tournament interesting.
Yeah, especially because a lot of the weeklies, like we are seeing a lot of the same like pickup teams compete over and over again. And something I know I've seen, especially because whenever I would go to the like the major lands in the states, whether that was LTC, Riptide, Genesis, you name it, or sometimes I'm just casually watching like if I'll happen to see it on Twitch, a Smash Bros tournament. Something I noticed they do is they have the stats, right? They have the stats of what this like these two top players. I guess a great example could be like let's say Sonics and Tweak, right? These are two
Yeah.
Smash Bros players who, whenever they go against each other, on the screen you're seeing their win loss record against each other, times they fought each other and how close it was, and just their experience in the past couple months of events they've competed in. And that draws people to kind of build up that inner self belief of who they want to win, who they want to see go at it. If Sonics has beaten Tweak like 3-2 in the past couple tournaments, there's that story of, wait, Tweak might have it this time. This could be the chance that finally Tweak gets revenge on Sonics and is able to take over. And in the Splatoon community, like, we don't really have too much of that because, we're a team-based game and it's a little bit different there. But if we run with that idea of putting some kind of bounty on it, it could be like, oh, hey, like, these guys keep winning this tournament and we know they keep playing in it. Let's set up that challenge instead of just like, oh, you could do it for clout. You could do it for an art prize, or like you said, like $5-10, just something to throw in there.
Yeah, just so, like even the smallest thing, right?
Yeah.
And I'd like to you mentioned Smash, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna mention another game that does something really cool and that I watch a lot. League of Legends. During like it's also a team based game, right? There's
Yeah.
like 5 players against 5 players.
Mm-hmm.
What they do when there's a big set, they choose like a matchup to highlight. For example, they show like the mid lane, the two players who are playing the mid lane, they'll show them a bit more because they're both good, and it's like, oh, that's like that's like interesting to watch, right? Like if you have, for example, I don't know, let's say if nowadays we had like gods versus zero,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, we could be like, oh, those both of these players are good. Let's like put them in the spotlight, like make the sets more interesting. Like, oh, I don't know, Goss has won against this guy this many times. Zero has won against this guy this many times. Who will win it today? And like make it interesting for the viewer, right? Because like you can make it interesting for comp players by just showing the set. But like
Yeah.
those who don't know who they are or don't know like their individual like accomplishments, they're not really gonna know who's gonna win, like who's expected to win the matchup.
Yeah. Especially because like
Like,
Sundu makes it a little bit easier too with the whole like tournaments played page on someone's Sundu profile to see the tournaments these players have played in. So it doesn't hurt to like if like there's these top 4 teams that are competing in your event. Let's say we make a new like let's say like online major purposes, some new tournament comes out and there's these top 4 teams that are going to compete. You could see what players or team if they or like ideal situation teams that have competed in events the past, let's say 2-3 months, right? Let's not go crazy, but like a short enough time because there's so many tournaments right now that you could totally see a nice matchup of they've played in this tournament, who have they fought that is also playing in this tournament. And obviously you're not going to be able to put everybody, but if there's a matchup that's going to happen at some point during your tournament, it can't hurt to have that little bit of extra time to put aside, like, oh, you know, if I guess the two top level teams I can think of right now, obviously that we have is like Moonlight versus Fluffy Black Lotus. Like, obviously you have the 20XX League, you'll have whatever other terms. Let's say just for sakes to say it, like they compete in like Glaze Gauntlet, right? And then now let's say at the end of this month we have another tournament. You could highlight those two tournaments if they fought each other, or just their placements and how well they did, and then what you're hoping and could expect, especially if you have good commentators that could play off of it, what to expect this time to go against each other.
Yeah.
And of course, it is going to be tricky regardless because, right
I
now
mean,
we're on a huge team basis and like Sendu's kind of the only thing we have to rely on that. But still, it's an idea to put in the air.
yeah, I mean, like, that will require two things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The major thing will be like the TOs will have to be very, very aware of what's going on in the scene.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of tourneys happening, and they will have to like kind of watch over everything, right? Just to see what's going on. And from there on, we could make those kind of things, right? But like once again, that will be like this will be like a heavy investment kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, 100%.
But we have to like collaborate enough to make those things possible. Give people different roles. For example, if you host a tournament, get one analyst, a guy who watches all the recent tournaments, who gives like all the feedback of like what's going on, right?
Mm.
Give one guy who like a group of people who prepare the actual tournament, a guy who kind of like writes the trope for like the upcoming tourney now that he has like the analyst information. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Dedicate one person's time to really doing the research on the teams that are going to be competing.
Yeah, I agree.
I know we've been like on the topic of lower level tournaments, but tournaments for top level, right?
Yeah.
There's not a lot, obviously. There's not many. And something I do want to touch on is like if there were to be I guess my big question is, would top level like more tournaments?
Okay. This conversation will be tricky because my my opinion
Mm.
may differ from my other like teammates from plus one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, 100%.
But I personally think top player, top players overall, they want majors. Every
Yeah,
time you
okay.
go on Twitter, Zenith tweeting, we need more majors.
Mm-hmm.
Goss tweeting, we need more majors. Everyone's like, more majors, more majors, more majors. So I also agree. I have to give them that thing. Everyone wants a major.
Yeah.
Because it's like, first of all, let's be honest. We all know that like large prizes slash good production slash good like rewards for the players attract top players.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, huge tournaments make the power scaling of our region way easier.
Yeah.
Like, if we get more majors, we will know which team dominates the region. That's the issue with pickups and a tournament here and there, is that like everyone kind of beats each other, but you don't really know who's good and who's not because everyone's playing with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Then, like, look, let's take the example of like, I don't know. I love taking that tournament as an example because I feel like it's like such a good example of like you can achieve big without putting money on the prize.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I'll take the Resurgence League. That's like my favorite tournament.
Yeah. It was so good though,
There
so I don't
was
blame you.
yeah. There was no money, no art. Like the art was like nobody expected art when we finished the groups, right?
Yeah.
No money, no anything, and yet every top players involved, huge storylines, huge streams with like you could argue the best sets of the year for the game, right?
Yeah.
And like it worked so well. And like you could think that if you regrouped enough TOs, like okay, see for example, Alice, every like few paddling pools, she gets paddling pool gold.
Mm-hmm.
Paddling pool gold is kind of cool because you get like that extra badge. Let's say she collab with another tournament maker. Get that tournament's prize pool, right, slash art prize, fuse it with paddling pool.
Mm-hmm.
So you have badge plus art prize. Now, get a good commentator. Like, get someone who knows his shit, who knows the game. You can even ask top players. Like, I'm sure some top players know the game and they will be down to commentate. If Prochara is not playing, put Prochara. If Kyo is not playing, put Kyo. If Fuzzy's down, because Fuzzy's old and OG, he knows every player in the game.
Yeah.
Put Fuzzy. And then look what you have. You have a good badge, a tournament every now and then that is slightly like regular because it's like every 10 normal paddling pools you get a big one.
Yep.
But it's kind of like you can say like a bi-monthly or something.
Mm-hmm.
You have cash prize / art prize fused from like another tournament that has them already. You have like a good stream animated by a good person and a good production. What is there more to ask for? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. No,
on
absolutely.
paper, on paper, you have everything you need to be successful
Mm-hmm.
because that's kind of how it works, right?
Yeah.
I think the issue nowadays is that everyone kind of does their little thing in their own corner, and nobody really wants to like reach out and be like, "Hey, do you want to collab? Want to put my badge with your money, make it a bigger thing?" Like, I'm a top player. Like, I'm a player as a whole. Like, the top player doesn't even matter. It's like
Yeah.
I don't get to see what's behind the scenes of tournament making, of like the big TOs, the big tournament makers, the guys who have had tournaments running for like years and years. So I don't really know how it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's possible, and I'd have to have an actual TO reach out and be like, "Oh, that's possible." I feel like that could be doable because, like, from my perspective, it's like it's it's possible. Like, it's not an impossible thing to build, especially with the amount of people trying to make tournaments.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. There's because so many people have this same or similar ideas. From the outside, it looks fairly simple to just pair with other TOs for an event and make one big event that's monthly or bi-monthly, or if we're able to build enough of them seasonal throughout the year,
Yeah,
that makes people want to be able to see that and be like, I want to compete in that, I want to form a team together, we're gonna play in that, we're gonna go after that.
yeah. Like, see, like for example, sometimes I play tournaments who have like a big cash prize, okay,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't really get traction or whatever. Realistically, the tournament could be way more huge, right?
Yeah.
But it sadly does not. But what if that said tournament collaborated with another tournament who is already in the spotlight, fuse their money with the viewership of that tournament, and be like, okay, now we make this a monthly.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna work. Like, once again, I'll take the example of paddling pool because like I feel like paddling pool is kind of like known.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's like
Everyone kind
it's
of
an
knows
OG
paddling
tourney.
pool.
Yeah.
We've all been through paddling pools. Like, let's be honest.
So true.
We take paddling pool's visibility, slap like a random tournament who usually has like $100, like randomly, you don't know where it comes from. Fuse both. Boom. Paddling pool, it's already a known name. $100. Top players love it. We love money. And then you put a good cast, or put the same casters as usual, or just have someone like help them or whatever, just so they can like get better or have
Mm-hmm.
more experience. Because like realistically, that's how you get better over time.
Yeah.
And then just run it every now and then. And here you have like a good tournament. I don't think a tournament's like status doesn't revolve around the money spent on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people think that a major equals $500, but realistically, majors is like visibility, good cast, somewhat good production, and a slight reward, or the reward can be traded for like a way more insane of the three of those I just like said before.
Yeah.
Kind of like for
Yeah.
Ink TV, right?
I was about to say, yeah, the Resurgence League was the best example you gave for that. Is that there was no real prize, but the production was just on such an insanely good high level, and the promotional and content that came out of it too is what made it soar. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen viewership skyrocket as high as when it was there for the Resurgence League.
I mean, wait, let me check something real quick.
Yeah, no problem. And while you are, I'll keep rambling a little bit. But yeah, it's like like you don't need like yes, cash prize is nice. Yes, art prize is nice, right? And obviously, there's so many incredible, talented artists in the community, and I'm sure one of them would love just to have also that exposure too, that help them grow as well as be able to like shine out their artwork. Um, but if you're able to hit a few of those marks, you're gonna you're gonna do wonders for not only just like yourself and your tournament, but the player interest base as well. Like obviously, like everyone plays in Lowing because everyone knows the memes behind Lowing. You get a little badge, you get a certificate, you get to say you're banned from low level because not a lot of like tournaments really say you're banned. It's also a tournament where teams grind and practice for a month to compete in what is like I like to think of like the low level, major in a sense. Obviously, it's like not really a major, but that's just kind of looking at it from that perspective of like when I used to be low level. If I was grinding when I was low level for low rank, it was because like I knew I wanted to win that. I had a purpose for grinding, and it was to win low rank or get banned from it, some way, some shape or form, because that is what the community has kind of deemed that kind of bridge into mid level to an extent. Because it's just so popular, everyone plays it. You build little friendships and rivalries through it, and they don't even have an art prize. They don't have a cash prize. They have a badge, but also it's just the fact that you get to say you're banned from Lowing. The production also is so good. The VODs coming back are good. The replays are really good to watch. And plus, because the same teams keep competing over and over, you're able to see next month, like, I don't know, like, let's just say there was a team like, like, oh, what's a good level team that competes in it still a lot? There's a team I coach, Calamity Forge Neo. If
Yeah.
they compete every lowing, and it's exciting to watch them return over and over again because it's like I'm putting in my effort to coach them, they're putting in their effort to keep playing and doing what they can, especially outside tournaments, not just lowing, and people know their name already too because they keep coming back every month and doing better and better, and that's how that kind of level like cheering comes on too, is because you're seeing teams keep repeatedly coming back that they know they want to root for until one day they hopefully win it if they don't get banned outside of it.
Mm. I think that's what makes the game great overall, right?
Yeah.
Like seeing the growth of a team of like players, it's kind of insane because like
Mm-hmm.
you want to see the guys get better, but at the same time, the scene has to like kind of like push them forward. Like it has to be like slightly guiding.
Yeah.
What I was saying on like I remember on like the podcast
Mm-hmm.
is that I was saying that like back then when I was +2, so like 5 years ago, the game felt way more guiding
Mm-hmm.
than now. You had like a kind of forward path. You you play the game until you're like Div 1, 2. Then you get into +2. Then you grind tournaments, get connections, play more tournaments, play better tournaments, fight better players, get +1, get a team, and GG. But
Yeah.
nowadays, I feel like the path is like full of like obstacles
Mm-hmm.
because you have to
We've
like
overcomplicated it.
like you're basically like pushed to like skip so many steps.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's kind of like not good because to ensure the good development of the game, you kind of want the players to like develop in a healthy environment, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
with like and just to give people the need to play the game, right? Like if a team is always exposed to the best players and they keep losing, they're not gonna want to like continue playing or they're gonna like disband, right?
Yeah.
But it might not even be their fault. It might just be because like the tournaments they're playing are not meant for them, but they're not like it's not said that it's not for them because everyone gets to play, right?
Yeah.
Or the tournament just doesn't have like a big reputation, but everyone that's good plays it.
Yeah.
That's why I think like tournaments like low ink are insane
Mm-hmm. Floink builds those
because
monthly stories, and that's what people are drawn so much to it for. And also because obviously it's like it kind of has become that like low level guided tournament that like there's like they always add a bracket if there's a huge number of teams. So like you have still like a purpose for wanting to play regardless. But it continuously helps people get that goal of like, I played the first time, I got gamma bracket. Cool. Now next time I know I want to aim higher. Next time I got beta bracket. Incredible. Now my last goal is try to get if I don't win beta, like I've got better last time. My goal is alpha bracket. The top bracket, I want to win it all and like say I'm a low rank champion. And it
Yeah.
feels like
I,
after
I
low level, we don't have that.
I remember one tournament being just like that. I don't know if it was 20XX. No, it was something else. It was on Start GG. It was always a 2-day tournament back in like 2018. Oh god, what was the name? It was basically a 2-day tournament with multiple brackets. The first day you played like pools, and depending on your results, you were affected to like a bracket, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And usually top players will play that, and it will always like be insane. But I forgot if it's like I don't know if it's 20XX or it's something else, but it was something in the style, right? Kind of
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know if you were there, if you were around when Kings determined Kings, or like no, it was Crown, my bad, Crown. When Crown was around.
I got into competitive, I think, a little bit after it ended.
Okay, so to give context, I don't know if you know what the tournament meant, but tournament was basically EU versus NA,
Okay.
and whoever won was like crowned the best region of the two.
Yeah.
Uh, for context, we're in a context where both regions are pretty good together. It's not like today where the NA stomps Europe constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So it was way more like it was way more competitive. So people were like, "Oh, who's gonna win? Like, is it gonna be Keo? Is it gonna be FC Win? Is it gonna be like?" Back then it was what team was that? I forgot the names of the teams. I'm actually stupid.
You're fine. It's
Uh,
been a while.
it's not. It was. I mean, I forgot the name of the team. It was Astral,
Okay.
and basically like those were huge. Sadly, we can't really do those anymore because Europe kind of fell off, and now we just have pickups. We have no like national teams anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
But like we don't see the same impactful tournaments as before.
Mm-hmm.
Tournaments don't really mean anything. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
now, even if you do a glazed gauntlet, a fried basket, you win, but that's it. There's no benefit. Back then, you won a major, you were like D team, D player. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like you actually gained from it. And nowadays, it's kind of like all meaningless. We're just like playing to play.
Yeah. Do you think that has to do with just how top level right now is kind of in like this pickup culture?
Yes, sadly, yes. I will say it. I know I've seen a lot of tweets of people being like, pickup culture. I love pickup culture. It's so fun. Let's do a little slap back to reality here.
Mm-hmm.
Pickup culture is basically and realistically a very elitist version of the game where a very close circle of averaging like 14 players DM each other, form insane teams who are barely like challenged throughout the entire like season,
Mm-hmm.
get to play together, and they basically stomp every tournament.
Yeah.
Why is that bad? First of all, because it's a race. It's just a race. I've been as a top player myself. I can tell you it's a race. Basically, the first to DM the good players wins.
Yeah.
And it's stupid said like that, right? But
Yeah,
it's
but
kind
that's
of how
how
it
it
is.
is. Yeah.
Like, what if the tournament gets announced? First people I DM, I don't know, Goss, Yoshel, Atomic, Zenith, GG. Like,
Yep.
how does any like non-top level team rivalize with that pickup? Realistically, you don't really, because like how, like
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. Like
that
once like
that
those
seems just
players
like kind of
are
like
captured, it's it. What would you say like? Because this is where like I would love to pick your brain about it. So like, does top level enjoy the pickup culture?
I think they do because I've seen people praising it,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think I okay. The thing I've seen about it is like the people who praise it are those who don't play.
Mm-hmm.
like I think it's fun to watch,
Yeah.
but I think it's shit to play. Like
Mhm.
as someone who's in the pickup culture, especially as a one trick, nobody DMs me to play. Even though I could argue that I'm like a part of like the top 20 of like the +1 without being too egotistical.
Yeah.
Even the really great players, if their weapons are too niche, too specific, nobody's gonna want to commit to that, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it makes sense. You can't blame them. It's kind of how one tricking works.
Yeah.
But like the game's just dead for us. Because who's gonna go DM the fucking one trick who just plays that one weapon when you have like other top players who play everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then at the same time, where's the diversity, you know?
Mhm.
There's no diversity because there's no commitment. Because you know that like you don't really care about committing, because anyways next tournament I'll be DMing Kyochan. And Kyochan will play bucket for me.
Yeah.
And if Kyochan can't play, I'll just DM Jared. And if Jared can't play, I'll just DM Goss. If Goss can't play, I'll just DM Gray. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. There's no commitment to like those individuals, like if they were on a team.
Yeah. And like certain players, they're more prone to evolving in a like set like environment of the same players. Because let's be honest, it's way better for synergy to play with the same people over and over again than swap pickups every time.
Yeah.
Especially when we know that like people like to switch their weapons often. People like to try things. Like you're never like fighting the same thing, but you're
Yeah.
also like never playing with the same thing. So like what happens now? You know, like
Mhm.
what do we do? Because the lack of teams stops the production like evolution, because there's no teams, there's no storylines. You can't make rivalry if nobody's rivaling like rivalizing against each other.
Yeah.
Everyone loves each other, everyone plays with each other. So how do you like invent a rivalry? How do you make a storyline? You
Mhm.
can't be like, oh, will Kyo beat Xenith? Because the next week you can see Kyo playing with Xenith.
Yeah.
So like, what's up? You know, like they
Yeah.
can't be enemies if they play together. And it's not
Yeah.
even enemies, right? It's like in game. But
Yeah. Like
like,
in-game enemy. Yeah.
it's like back then when Starburst was leading the team, you wouldn't see like the next week them turning their entire roster and be like, oh, now they're playing with Alliance Rogue, the team who upset them back in Ink TV.
Mhm.
Like that makes no sense. So like storylines are kind of like GGs. You can't make them,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really benefit players as well, because from what I'm seeing, we all got mechanically better, but it's like how do you call that in English? It's like a circle of it's a positive circle. I think it's a virtuous circle. I think that's how it's called, at least in French. It's when like everyone's kind of together and everyone pushes together to like be better, right?
Oh yeah. 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 Like just like kind of like in unison. Like
Yeah, it's like a positivity circle, right?
yes. 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 Instead of like
But
one team beating each other.
we don't even exploit that.
Mhm.
Everyone's getting better, but everyone plays with everyone, so nobody's really getting better at team play. We're just getting better individually.
Yeah.
And like sadly that's not like, I don't know, the game has like evolved past that point. I feel like that was Splatoon 1. Splatoon 1 was a game full of individuality,
Mhm.
of just pure skill diff. But I think we've evolved past that since a long time.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I think it's kind of sad that we're just like, the game is so dry that we have to like use those old logics to play the game.
Mhm.
Because realistically, we don't gain anything out of it. And if we look on the bigger like scale, Japan, who like commits a lot, but also has a healthy pickup culture, because their pickup culture may exist, but realistically, it's always the same pickup because they have pickup groups.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how like, I don't know if you were there like a few months prior. You know, I don't know if you've seen like Donut Clan with me, Goss, and everyone.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but basically it was a pickup, but it's not really pickup culture because we're just like four friends playing the game when we don't have teams.
Yeah.
The difference between that and nowadays pickups is that like everyone plays with everyone. It's not like a set like pickup group of like the set players playing together, right?
Mhm.
It's just like, it's just us having fun.
Yeah.
And now it's just like everyone playing with everyone and GG. So
Mhm.
to conclude my point, we're all getting better. That's fine.
Yeah.
But what's the better being used for? What are
Mhm.
we getting better for? What are we trying to beat?
Yeah.
Because like it's cool to win majors in our own region. It's cool to like, it's fine. Like I'm not blaming anybody for that. But like what's our end goal here? Like, what are we aiming for? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I kind of have like a two different questions here. So like feel free to answer whichever one you like first. But like
Sure.
so one question I had was like what do you think I guess this could kind of mix the two together, but what do you think it would take for top level to kind of commit more to a team culture again rather than a pickup culture? Like in your eyes, I guess. Like not answering for top level as a whole, but like to you, what do you feel would be like help top level kind of push for that team culture again rather than a pickup culture? Or at least maybe
I
like
think I
Japan,
don't.
like a group culture.
It's so tough because like if I had the answer,
Hmm.
I would have kind of like. I think if we had the answer, we kind of will have already been doing that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, would have done it. Yeah.
But I think it comes out two things. First of all, in Europe, at least, I can give you an answer for Europe because
Okay.
that's where I play, so I know what's happening.
Okay. Yeah.
We have everyone's a Slayer.
Hmm.
Everyone's playing a Slayer weapon, or that barely paints. Look, Gray swapped from support to Blaster. I play Carbon. Zeras plays Stamper. Atomic plays Squeezer Roller. What are the supports left? We have Yoshel, you, and that's mostly it, unless I'm forgetting someone. If I am, don't beat me up, please. But basically, we don't have like the variety is dead. We don't
Yeah,
have the weapons to make a team. And
that's
if we
true.
do make a team, it's at the detriment of everyone's individual skill. And if we know that currently individual skill is what makes people win.
Yeah.
So it will be a way too long time investment for a too short, long, like a too long term results, right?
Hmm.
The only team you could say it worked for is Moonlight, because Moonlight is a team, has been there for quite a while now, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's the only like group of people who has managed to like mix both. Because you could argue like they're pretty good mechanically, not the
Hmm.
best, but still like really up there.
Yeah, they're getting there.
But the difference between them and like the random pickups is team play. And the fact that if they lose, they can always adapt and just get better, right?
Yeah.
Because like their their experience stacks. They're not wasting their experience by making pickups. When they lose, they all lose. So they all learn the
Hmm.
same things from the same mistakes. So they all get better. Like for example, I could talk about Basil, for example, who's been a player I've played against multiple times at multiple occasions. Will it be tournaments, scrims? And no matter the outcome, will it be winning, losing, or whatever? Every time I play against them, like I see the progress they're making
Hmm.
at like different things. I remember scrimming Basil a few months like back, and they were like weak to flanks. Nowadays, they're like a flank counter like demon.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, you can't fight them up close anymore. It's impossible because they've learned. And I feel like in pickups, when people lose, they just don't give a fuck. They're like, oh, we lost. Go next. I'll just DM other people.
Yeah.
Like, we're not really learning anything. We're getting maybe better by playing the game itself, but like I said, what are we getting better for?
Hmm.
Like it's cool to win, but since winning doesn't even have any value nowadays, what are we winning for?
Hmm.
Like it's cool you get your $300, but realistic, what's the long term goal? And to be fair, you could also blame the fact that there's no more like NA champs, French champs, EU champs, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that will be a kind of like sore excuse, right? Like that will be blaming it on something that like you could blame Nintendo, but like we already know how Nintendo behaves with their games, so we're
Yeah.
kind of like it's a habit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like we're forced to narrow down our vision towards our own solutions.
Hmm.
But to come back to the team thing, I don't know what could get people to play together again. I know some people try, but I think the motivation is just lacking
Hmm.
because, and I think that's like where every point connects. There's no really any consistent amount of tournaments for a team to get better.
Hmm.
So it's logic that instead of like trying to make a team, people instead just make a strong pickup that has way more chance of winning than inputting a lot of time for like maybe like a lower win rate.
Yeah.
But if we had more tournaments in order to like train everybody, then I think people will be more likely to play as a team because then there's more content to go over and like more things to get better at. Because Um, from my perspective, Sennu has kind of dried out. Nobody really plays it anymore because
Mm-hmm.
the majors is really like easy to access. You don't need to play a lot. You just do like the needed amount of sets to like be placed, and then it's over. You're qualified, right?
Yeah.
Then X rank doesn't really bring us anywhere. Scrims by themselves have become like the rarest and most precious value of the game because nobody plays.
Mm-hmm.
Then like how do people get better? There's no real getting better. Hence why I think like everyone has swapped to the strategy of like, oh, let me just DM that guy because he's good, and I know I'm
Yeah.
gonna win if I DM this guy.
Would if the community created like I'm just trying to think how could like the community help with this, right? Like tournament wise. Would like a community based like created um like like kind of poking at the idea of like the champs from Nintendo, like the French champs, NA champs, etc. If that was instead like pushed and created by like the community for like tournament base,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
could that help or at least try to guide top level to
I
building more of
think it
that team
would,
basis?
but like we'd have to make it really well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like something to follow it up with is like prizes, right? Like obviously that's a huge like eyesore, like something that draws attention. Um, obviously, like you said before, at top like who doesn't love money, right? Like cash prize is always great. But top levels those like not afraid to compete for uh a prize that's not cash. Like it's been done before, it could happen again, right?
Yeah, of course.
So I guess it's really just kind of creating that resurgence feel of like production basis,
Yeah,
but the idea of the tournament is similar to that of Nintendo's tournaments of like, hey, like we're gonna have during these months or this month will be like North American champions, only NA teams. You have to, and the winner of that will fight at the end of the year or at the end of whatever in a community ran world champs to an extent, right? Or like if anything like or I guess like how it was I forget what the name of that tournament was, but was it when you mentioned earlier like crowns where it's like NA versus EU where we're just kind of building that back up again and kind of forcing that culture back into top level where it's like, hey, if you want to compete in this for this great production, great prize, you got a pair of players in your region. And I wonder if that could be the push that might be needed.
I mean, you'd get teams by making like I just don't know how you could like reproduce the whole like engagement to French champs, like European champs and such, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like that's huge. But like, of course, that will bring people to play together and might create like long-term projects. But like once again, it comes back to our first point. Like the level of production required for that
Yeah.
will be like insane. That's why I think like it's like people need to like get together and do something because if each like class of people does whatever, we're not gonna get anywhere really.
Yeah.
Like if top players keep playing and not really paying attention to tournaments, if TOs just keep making tournaments without really paying attention, and if like people talented with production can't really work with their talents, and they're just not gonna apply it to the game.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why if everyone gets interested to everyone, it's a win-win for everyone. Because we can make the tournaments better, we can make like better production, we can make better everything if you think about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It just comes down to breaking that barrier of being either scared or worried or too filled with your own ego for because I don't know if people aren't like that, but that's just something that is a factor of like being too full of yourself and your ego to ask for that help or to push to help others. And like let's not be strangers. Like at the end of the day, like the Splatoon community is one of the most kind of unison or friendly communities there is out there. You can, like you said earlier, like when we were talking, that you could DM a top player and they'll respond to you. They'll say something.
Yeah,
Like
they
they
will.
will see it. So let's not be afraid to message each other if we're like on similar levels, especially on the production side, and put more effort into these side productions. Like obviously Dapple Productions and IPL have their own teams that do their thing, right? But this is more for those like smaller organizations that are trying to build up, or those smaller tournament runners that are trying to get something off the ground. As much as I'm sure you'd love to be your own, tournament organizer and be the one to be like, oh hey, like I started this tournament from the ground up and look where it is now. It's not
Yeah.
realistic. It's just not. And especially in a time where there are so many copycats. You got to be the one to do something different. And it's not by making your own different type of tournament. It's by changing the trajectory and helping where it's needed with someone else rather than making your own.
Yeah, I agree. I know some people have tried it in the past. I know Chara has a server with like some top players and some TOs, but it's mostly for like map polls or like maps we should play in competitive and which one we shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think we should push that slightly further, because from my perspective, okay,
Mm-hmm.
when those subjects are being discussed, they're being brought to the table.
Yeah.
The issue is that they're never brought long enough to the table for something to happen. Everyone kind of gets to complain, gets to say blah blah blah, and everyone makes a great point, but then nobody really does anything about it because I don't know. I don't have an explanation because I've seen it happen. So
Yeah.
but basically, like, it needs to be taken more seriously, I guess, to a
Mm-hmm.
point where like we need to make the community grow. Because I don't think like I think one thing recently that has shocked me is people bashing Keo for making Glazed Gauntlet, calling it a low production tournament with like barely any effort. But like there's a reason why it works.
Mm-hmm.
He has the platform, he knows how to use it.
Yep.
He knows how tournaments works because he's a top player himself. He knows what attracts the people who play their his tournaments. And every time, no matter what, people are there to watch it. People love it. People like you can just see it by his recent subathon. Like
Yeah.
he went crazy. And the two Glazed Gauntlets back to back, they did crazy as well. And like that's when you see like you don't need to be the god TO to make a huge tournament. You just need to like know how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And since he's a top player and he's been around for a while, he knows how it works. But some TOs, they've been there for a while, but like have they really gotten the like the real aspect of the game, or are they just like biased somehow with like their own vision of the game, and they're like reassured by the amounts of players they're getting in the tournament, being like, oh well, I'm bringing enough players, I don't really have to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's this thing, it's like for things to evolve, you have to abandon stuff. Like
Yeah.
you don't get change without like sacrifices.
Yeah.
That's just how that logic applies to so much. And I think the biggest issue we have with Splatoon at the current time is that like we're stuck with our old systems. Tournaments that work, they work, but that's it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they work, but like they don't really do much more than just working. They don't really bring new people. It's always kind of like look at the Archie, like the Archie wave of like the group of people farming tournaments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that phenomenon happened many times and will happen many times. But like, what is it really getting them in the game, or what is it really doing for the community? Not much. They're just getting badges. We've
Yeah.
said it already, right?
Yeah. Exactly. It's just bad.
Badges don't really have value.
Yep.
But like, since these people bring like visibility to tournaments or like enough players, maybe the TOs are coping and being like, oh, well, it's working. Let's just continue doing it.
Mm-hmm. There's no risk there.
Yeah,
It's
there's
like,
no risks being taken.
Yep. It's just this works. It gets me the viewership. It gets me the player basis. It gets me the commentators time. Like it gets me to keep doing what I'm
It
doing.
needs to be everyone's talent put in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Because right now we're not taking any risks. We're sticking with what's good, and we're not like
experimenting.
Yeah, we're not doing anything. We're not doing shit realistically. Like every tournament is the same.
Exactly.
Like I don't know. I think that's also what's keeping us stuck is like tournaments are not evolving. Some tournaments, and let me just put this straight so people don't get confused. Some tournaments are not made to evolve. I'm not requesting low ink to become high ink, for example. Low ink can
Yeah.
stay low ink because it works, and it's meant to work because it targets a specific target audience that already finds itself successful.
Yeah.
So I think that tournament is doing their job and is doing it correctly. I'm not like I'm saying like tournaments who are aiming a larger like player base should experiment. They should try and be like, oh, this works, this doesn't work. Oh, we should maybe try this for our next like. Because basically, what do you lose from experiment? It's Splatoon.
Yeah.
You're not working for like a fucking company. You're not gonna get fired if you
Yeah,
do a bad
exactly.
tournament.
Exactly.
Just fucking do it. Just try.
Yeah. It's like right now, like
Who's
I know
like
they are IPL switched to having their tournament proving grounds, like from I think it was like every other week to like once a month. And that was a
yeah
huge gamble they took. But when it happens, there's a little bit more player engagement because it's like, oh, this is the rare proving grounds.
yes
What if
because it
we
happens less often.
exactly? So what if you build off of like it kind of like I feel like it would like proving grounds right now was in the start of that evolution, but it got halted because it just stopped at the monthly. What if you fully committed to more of a change to that event, right? Whether that's adding I don't know, some kind of like story to the tournament, right? It's proving grounds for a
Yeah.
reason, right? It's something to prove. Add something more to it. I don't know what you could add. There's like, a laundry list of things you probably could, whether that's higher production, whether that's certain type of prize pool, whether that's um you could have certain kind of player engagement with like maybe top level players if they want to commentate it or have some kind of engagement so they play in it. But there's options that we have for even alt works too. Like I'm sure Dapple Productions could probably try something with Squid Junction. It's been around for so long. It's just kind of I think it's still bi-weekly, but for Dapple side too, like feel free to experiment. The worst that happens is that it doesn't work and you revert back. I mean, 20XX is the best example we have right now. It decided to go to a league format which has never been done since the Resurgence League, and it did fairly well. Now there, of course,
Okay.
was a lot to learn from
I
it, but
I have about that league. I have insider stuff about the leagues.
Mhm.
Okay. Top players, let's be honest, we are not that much into leagues anymore.
Mhm.
Uh we don't really play Ludi. We don't really like do those kind of things anymore.
Yeah.
Um the thing, okay, let's talk facts right now. It's like the reason why 20XX League worked is because the teams were pretty great.
Mhm.
I think there was a cash prize if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, there was. I believe so.
So
Yeah.
it brings people to the table, right?
Mhm.
I think the difference between like a league that will attract top players and a league that like kind of uh fails in the making is that um it's honestly just the production. Like I don't like repeating myself because it's kind of like I'm kind of trying to find a point that's original, but like
Mhm.
realistically, leagues are the best thing to make storylines because a league has a whole like season of people qualifying, and of those qualifiers, you can make a story. Will this team upset the team that beat them in the pool, like in the bracket phase? You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you can make so much with a league. It just needs to be handled the perfect way.
Yeah.
Because a league with poor management or like poor thingy just becomes like kind of like boring and like until the last fucking second of it, right?
Yeah.
Like people just watch the playoffs and that's it. My point will be the death of bi-weekly, weekly, monthly is the biggest impact on like the game.
Mhm.
Because like you said, Proving Grounds took a gamble with leader, right?
Mhm.
And what's it called? That's the problem with the game right now. Is that everything's a weekly. Everything's everything happens at the same time. And it's every week. So uh realistically, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen is that like We get overwhelmed with tournaments. The tournaments themselves lose value because they happen every week.
Yeah.
And that's what I was referring to back then, is that like some weeklies are needed.
Yeah.
You need paddling pool, you need blah blah blah. Kind of like back then we had Saturday morning coffee, we had Monday after party. But we need tournaments that are like we need tournaments that are like happen less often but have more engagement.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why Gauntlet, like Glazed Gauntlet, works so well. It's because we've brought it up during the podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Glazed Gauntlet kind of happens whenever the fuck Keo wants to.
Yeah, exactly. It's whenever he feels like it.
But since it happens randomly, since it happens so randomly, like people play it because
Mm-hmm.
they don't know when the next one's gonna happen.
Exactly. And plus, like, because it's Kyo, like the production doesn't have to be high. The high production is Kyo himself. Like that's the production because people love Kyo's input for multiple reasons. One, he's a funny guy. Two, he's
Yeah,
a top level player. He's got a lot of great insight, a lot of great information. Three, he knows most of the players that are competing once it gets to like the top 6, top 8 teams. It's like Keo knows them, knows what to say about those players and what they're doing, and is able to give good information on it. And for Keo, that works great, and that's all that Keo needs for the Glaze Gauntlet. It's all that type of tournament needs. It's really about
I like
finding your own unique niche.
yeah, like people underrate Keo as like a producer, and it was seen recently with people like people saying his tournaments are like low quality or whatever the fuck, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah,
But I think that's wrong because he, by himself, he brings so much to the game. Like he has like what's it called? He has the platform of viewers to host a tournament by himself.
yeah. Mm-hmm,
He has the knowledge about the players to know how to commentate it, and he knows how to entertain people, right?
mm-hmm.
And all of that adds up to itself, and it makes a great tournament.
Yeah,
But
and
like,
there's also the fact that like Keo will also just watch other players' streams, which helps a lot for those players as well, like giving their perspective too, and you can hear their
yeah,
call outs. And Keo even mentioned that those call outs too, if they're good or not, and like people could take notes on that if they really wanted to.
yeah, I agree. It's also like okay, what's so original about Keo's stream is that, like you said, it's not just a spectator POV. We get to see like the POV, like the inside of the team. We hear the call outs. We see the like the everything happening in real time. You get like the background of what's happening, right? And I think like that's for a casual, that's like amazing. Like you see what's going on behind like your favorite team like tournament set while having Keo's like input on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so much to learn. But to like to come back to the whole point, I think we've kind of went over like the tournament issue as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Uh it's like it's kind of the connection between like production, POs and players. Like it needs to be done. Something needs to be done. The major actors of TOs and major like actors of players and production need to get along somehow because otherwise we're never gonna go ahead. Like basically we're gonna keep staying stuck if we don't get all along together.
Yeah, and like I know like something I liked about so sometimes we've seen through obviously different posts, whether it's on Blue Sky or Twitter or wherever, or talked about from by Popgun, is that like behind the scenes, like Dapple and IPL talk a lot, and they have a lot of same ideas. Like I know IPL want to run a league, but then 20XX happened, and Dapple even told them that like, hey, we're doing a 20XX league, so you have to hold off on your idea. And it's nice that they communicate with that. And I think it's time for like others that are smaller than those orgs to follow suit, talk to each other. It's not hard. You shoot a DM. If you want, make your own, like, I think, what is it called? The TOs Guild? Like, you could make your own, like, server of just TOs of all the smaller orgs and merge together all your different ideas and, like, start spitballing. Start, like, take a month's time to, like, not host your own events, depending if they're not doing well or not getting the engagement you wish you did, and put a lot of your efforts in there. Have the next
I
high
agree.
quality tournament. Have some artists or friends you know, or put a couple dollars on your side to have a cash prize. Like DM commentators. I get DM'd to commentate a number of tournaments on like the weekly basis, and sometimes I'm available, sometimes I'm not. Lately, not obviously because I think I compete, but like people will respond, and
No, I
it's not like
agree.
you're paying the commentators. We all do it for the same reason, just because it's fun and we enjoy it. It's just taking that step.
Yeah, like we said, it's a fusion of everything that needs to be done. It's not really the fault of any of each parties. It's kind of like everything needs to get together, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm just thinking about it now. This is like just me spitballing, just because like, I'm curious like your thought takes on it. This is kind of referring back to what I was talking about, like the community based like championships. But
Yeah.
what if instead of like how we've seen it done, right, where you take a couple months, have a couple of um individual like tournaments and such, where it's like, oh, like you have a qualifiers, all this. What if instead of just like a huge like qualifier type of thing, what if it was just like a league, an NA versus EU league,
Look,
if anything?
do you do you follow football?
Not as much as the
Okay.
average football fan.
I don't know if you've seen the new format of the Champions League,
hmm
but basically now it's a big pull. It's instead
Okay.
of being like a huge tournament, they've turned it into like a huge season. If you think like a whole season of it by itself,
Yeah.
teams play each other, and depending of the matches they win or lose, they go to the next like they go to the Champions League or they play like tiebreakers or they get kicked out.
hmm
Sadly, we don't have enough players to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if we had more people, like if we had like a good player base ready to like settle for teams, that would be huge because that would fuse everything. You will
hmm
have a league by itself who
hmm
basically just serves as like a group stage, a huge playoff season, and then you have like a huge set at the end. So you'd have like kind of how a league works. Like some matches are more interesting than others,
Yeah.
but everyone will have different sets for their like different desires, right? Like someone wants to watch this team play, they can.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you have a huge top cut that kind of like filters out the teams. And with how the format of the Champions League works, like there's a lot of upsets happening.
hmm
So a lot of like teams who are unexpected to qualify actually qualify, and then you get to see like crazy shit happen, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you want to see as a viewer is like you want surprises, right? Like you want to see certain teams be like, oh, upset, oh, this team won against those guys. How? I think that's also what we need, right? Like we need to rethink formats, not like for tournaments themselves, for like new projects. We have to like see what we can do that would bring in engagement while keeping it like accessible for top players
hmm
and like schedules, right?
Absolutely. Because scheduling is the biggest thing right now.
Like, look, the thing in TV used to do, like depending on the team, we will adapt sets like when they're played, right? So
hmm
it matches both teams. That's something you only get in leagues because leagues you can like pre-schedule a match, right?
Yeah.
So you get like a convenient timestamp to play your match. Usually the TOs can always decide if they really can't, if they really can't, they can just pre-record the match if needed. Like
Yeah, which is
I
what
know
we
that's been
did.
done
I was
before.
gonna say we did it with the 20XX League a few
Yeah,
times.
and I think I don't remember, but I think TV also did it, and nobody complained. It worked out perfectly.
Hmm.
Like you can always do that. There's so many ways to do something. It's just that like I think we're not pushing for the limits of the game. Like we're kind of like stagnating at the same thing
Yeah,
over and over again.
we're too comfortable.
Yeah, nobody, and that's also because like realistically, uh, nobody's really like pressuring the TOs. Not like by like saying like, oh, make better tournaments.
Hmm.
Like there's no new tournaments with innovating IDs being like you know how the America works. Like currently, most tournaments have like their little like monopole. Nobody's kind of like moving them. Nobody's
Hmm.
kind of like giving them a wake up call because they're so comfortable in their position. Their tournament works. There's no like there's no competitivity between tournaments to be more successful
Yeah.
because everyone just settles with having 7 teams and says fuck it.
Yeah, there's no pressure to try new
There's no
things.
pressure to innovate. There's no
Yeah,
innovation.
yeah. It's
There's no
like,
new things.
yep,
It's
yeah.
always the same.
It's like instead of like saying like, hey, I know you love running this like this week, this like bi-weekly or this monthly, uh, so much. Hear me out. Try it differently. Try whether that's the formatting, whether that's the way it's ran. Obviously that could be take it up to however they would like want to try it, but for the sake of it, like try it. Like we said earlier, like you said earlier, what is there really to lose?
Yeah, true. Like there's no stakes. There's nothing realistically.
Hmm.
Like the worst thing that can happen is like since your tournament's weekly, you try something and for 1 week your tournament kind of does worse.
Hmm.
And next week you just try something else. It's it's kind of like a I don't know if you've played like roguelikes, but it's just a die and retry. Just keep trying until it works.
Yeah.
And even if it fails or like it doesn't work, at least you get to understand why the fuck it's not working.
Yeah.
Like instead of like shooting in the dark all the time and like begging for it to function or like for it to like blow up one day, just try new things until you figure out like, oh, this this like this combination of things I've been doing for my tourneys, I've been making it grow. And when I do this, it's not it's doing the opposite. Like it's just self-explanatory, like
Hmm.
just go away from one of the two that doesn't work and just grab the better one.
Yeah.
But since nobody's doing that and everyone's just copying of each other and we're copying of the people who are already too comfortable, then everyone's too comfortable and then there's nothing new. There's fucking nothing happening.
Yeah.
Some tournaments deserve to be chilling because they're good.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. But some tournaments are chilling, but they're not really doing insanely well. But the TOs settle with that because it's respectable. Like some
Hmm.
tournaments bring 70 viewers. I've streamed in my life. I know ad revenue. It's pretty cool. You get
Yeah.
like what, $250 for running a tournament here and there. I can't even blame them. But like
Definitely.
if you really want something bigger, then it's just up to you, no? Like you kind of have to like wake yourself up, get your ass off the chair you've been sitting in for 5 years and be like, okay, it's time to change something and try something new.
Yeah, I think the fun part too
Because
is like with a lot of these orgs is like you could even if you wanted to pick a section of competitive, right? You try to focus it on to mid level or low level, or if you really want to take the challenge, try it against top level, right? Send a couple messages, like you said, most top level is going to communicate. Just shoot them a message, be like, hey, we're thinking of this tournament idea. This is what we're gonna do, X, Y, and Z. Would you be interested?
I don't know, like from my perspective, people are shy.
Mm-hmm.
Like not as shy like they're like shy, right? But they're like I feel like people are terrified from trying stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like, okay, let's be honest, okay? I think some TOs may have like pressure on them. They think like there's expectations on them. Realistically, no. Because for me, and I'll say it this way, and I don't know if that's like the correct way to say it. I think it's a privilege to be able to participate to tournaments for free, as in like people are putting time and effort into it for free and you get to play it. So realistically, even if it's bad, the only thing you can say is like feedback. You can't really like be mad at the person because first of all, like they're taking time of their own to make it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing we can do as players is give them feedback and IDs, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But from my perspective right now, I think we've come to a point where um since we already have like a comfortable amount of TOs who are already like used to how the game functions, I feel like we can give like expectation feedbacks, as in like not being like if your tournament doesn't work, like fuck off or whatever, right? Like not
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah, yeah.
We're more like, oh, you should try stuff instead of sticking with the same thing. I feel like that's an expectation we're allowed to make because the game's kind of like spinning in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really going anywhere with it. And as long as we're not going to be like, as long as we won't change anything, then no, I think nothing will change. No matter what we'll do. Like, I know Plus One has been discussing about bringing back drafts. If we're being honest, maybe it'll work once, twice.
Mm-hmm.
Third time, half of the players will leave. Second time, nobody will reply. Like, I don't know. I feel like change needs to be done from every side, and expectations are set on everyone
Mm-hmm.
because realistically, everyone contributes to what's it called? Everyone contributes to the change.
Yeah. It just
And I
got to
think
put
that's
in the
how I
effort
see
for
it.
it. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. Like everyone's gonna be everyone has to play their part in it if we want some kind of change for it.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think if that change doesn't come, it's kind of cooked.
Yeah.
As in,
Yeah.
the community is not gonna die, but we're not gonna move on from what's happening currently.
Yeah, we're just gonna stay
And
stalled.
it's boring. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry to say that way, but as a player, it's boring
Mm.
because we always play the same. We always compete the same. We always compete the same way against the same people. It gets repetitive for everyone. That's why I feel like change needs to be done. It's
Mm-hmm.
easy to say change needs to be done when you're the one who has to do the least, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But from my perspective, I feel like change can be done. Let's put it that way. Change can be done. We just need to give ourselves the kind of the keys to do it, right? Like
No,
it's
absolutely.
kind of like we have to all work towards it, and we need to be comprehensive towards the speed that it's going at,
Mm-hmm.
because this is not going to be an overnight change.
No, yeah, it's like it's a long term.
Of course.
For my own curiosity's sake, what is
Yeah.
something different you would like to see or to compete in that maybe you have in the past that you've enjoyed that wish would come back or that could be
Well,
implemented?
I'm extremely biased
That's
because
fine. That's okay. That's why it's
I'm
specifically
extremely
directed at
biased
you.
because first of all, the fact that I'm a League fan, like League of Legends,
Mm-hmm.
that's a game known for its like storylines. Like, for example, Worlds happened recently. There's a whole story of like Faker getting his fifth trophy and whatever.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
The thing is that like we live in a game where we will never have an icon.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can be the Faker of Splatoon. That just doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
The game is not made in a way so that consistency is like we could have had, but I don't think it's possible, and I will not want to like compare Faker to Splatoon. That's kind of sad.
Mm-hmm.
But like basically,
Valid.
I am a big fan of storytelling in games,
Yeah.
like between players. And I feel like the moment I experienced like Ink TV, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. Because not
I
only
was
they
like,
get
so,
like
so
not only get you hyped to play in it, but it also you got hyped to like live through it. Like you get to be
yeah,
able to be
yeah,
like
yeah.
because you get to not only is like oh like you have an opportunity to take down at the time like Starburst was undefeated, but you get to see can anyone else do it if I don't get to like there was just that
Yeah,
hype
like
around it.
there's hype to live up to, and like once you live up to it, you like that was I think that was the first time I had like a feeling of glory after winning. I was like, holy shit, we did it.
Yeah.
Like the story was like, we're the underdogs, we're gonna lose. These guys are so good, and then we won. And then everyone's like cheering for us on Twitter the night we win, and like it's going crazy everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, man. That's like that's the fucking game. Like that's esports, bro.
Yeah.
And like once you get to like experience it, you're like, fuck, when is it coming back? Like I want to do that again. The
Yeah.
fuck?
Want to relive that moment.
Yeah. Like of course I'm biased because on that night I was the one who like got to experience the positivity out of it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But like I think overall, I've never seen the community be so like how you say that? Like participate to the event so hard. The
Yeah.
cheering from both sides was insane. The predictions, the casts, the analysis, the interviews post and pre-game, like everything, bro.
Mhm.
Like I don't know. I know there's like that one meme who goes like it was perfect start from to finish. That's it fucking in TV,
Yeah.
dude. it's it's like I've not played a single event that like matches
Facts.
that energy.
Yeah,
And I personally don't know how to recreate it. I think the people who did it were like insanely talented.
definitely.
That's why I want people to like get together and like let's run it back,
Yeah,
please. Like I'm
let's do
begging,
it.
bro. Can we cook? Because like I don't know. Once you get to experience it, you're like, damn man, that's how it is.
Yeah. That,
Like
that
there's
that's what
people
made it
cheering for you.
interesting.
There's people who are like, oh, I hope these guys lose.
Yeah.
Like there's everyone. There's everyone. And everyone finds their favorite team to support. Like they kind of get to see the team evolve through the tournament. And once Top Cut happens, they have like their personal pick of like, oh, I want to support this team in particular.
Yeah.
And I think that's insane. Sadly, like I said, I have no fucking clue on how to remake it. I am I am in nowhere in the position to like do that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, yeah, but like I
But
just like
like
to get your perspective on it. And like I feel like if there was just a way we could this sounds weird, like just force top level to be like for a moment, for a brief moment in time, whether it's a month, 2 months long, to just kind of how like 20XX did it for a brief time where you're forced to be on a team and play with those same individuals.
that's that's why I propose to make a league as a group stage.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because leagues force people to stick together for a set amount of time. And like they can't really abuse pickup culture because they know they're stuck with the same people for 4 weeks or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
But like that's good because then people form bonds, people get attached to the team, people get better together, the team play evolves, and you see new plays, new variety. Kind of like when AR in ICTV happened, and we were using ink strikes as a fucking smoke grenade for Carbon to play the game.
Yeah.
Like that was amazing.
Yeah.
And like even though we lost, we still brought like little originality to the event.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because like we were 4 people who were able to cook for 5 weeks and be like, okay, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's needed. We need leagues turned into group stages for playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like leagues by themselves don't really function because if you tell someone, oh, we're gonna play a league, you can't tell okay, you know how you can trick kids by making them eat veggies by making it look like a candy?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You do the same thing with top level and make them think the league is a fucking group stage. And you tell them, oh, after that, it's a fucking huge playoff.
Yeah.
And you tell them, okay, guys, it's group stage divided into multiple weeks and playoff.
Mm-hmm.
And you try to camouflage the league part as much as you can by like using all kinds of metaphors that aren't the word leagues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can guarantee you, bro, you'll get the people you want because this is like if you show people that you're invested, that you can bring a good like production and a good like just a good event overall, people will play because people are hungry to play.
Yeah.
And that's the good part of the game. I don't know how to explain, but like that event was basically like I don't want to like glaze like crazy, but like that revolutionized the vision we have of how tournaments function.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ink TV Resurgence League became the highest standard possible in the game for
Yeah.
a tournament.
It just did everything right.
And I feel like instead of being like, oh, it's impossible to remake, people should start being like, we have to like thrive towards matching that level instead of like we said, like staying cozy on their like monopole of tournaments
Mm-hmm.
and being like, oh, I love doing my tournament, I'll do the same all the time. If everyone like thrived to remake that kind of event with like who like I looked up the engagement for like Ink TV Resurgence League, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most of the playoffs games are like averaging 8 to 10K views on YouTube. This may
Yeah.
seem like not a lot for like if you're like if your standards are like extremely known people,
Yeah.
but for Splatoon, I'd
That's
say that's
massive.
insane,
No, 100%. That's
especially for a
huge.
non-official like production team.
Yeah, like that's not Nintendo. Like that's pure like
Yeah,
community
that's
based.
insane,
I
and that
just
would be huge content for everyone.
oh, 100%.
Everyone will do content out of it. Look, Kyo will milk the fuck out of it. I know Kyo, bro. He will love that shit, bro.
Yeah.
Like every streamer will love that. First of all, because they have something to work with. They can react. They get to see like teams evolve in real time. And I feel like I don't know during Ink TV there was so much like couch watch parties,
Yeah.
like react streams, like everything, man.
Mm-hmm.
It was everyone was so engaged in the tournament. Like I don't know if I'm the one who's biased because like it was amazing for me. Like that's why I'm saying like my opinion may be biased because I basically got to live one of the best night of my life on the game out of that event, right?
Yeah.
But like I feel like overall most people were satisfied. Like and let's say like in the craziest part of Ink TV is that it could have probably been better. Like there were probably things that could have been better, and that's crazy to say, right? Because like
Yeah.
the tournament was already so good.
Yeah.
But like I'm sure like if people work together, it will be possible to like cook something and get people to play together
Mm-hmm.
for a long on the long term.
Yeah. I have a
Like I think go
oh,
ahead,
I was
sorry.
gonna say, someone had asked in the chat for like the TO side of things, um, if you had any ideas how they could promote the storyline aside from DMing plus players.
I mean, that's what I said with having someone who works as kind of like the analyst for the TOs.
Mm-hmm.
You need someone who's passionate about the game.
Yeah, yeah,
You need someone who likes the game, who loves competitive, who kind of like who is unbiased about most players. It's okay to have a favorite, but like when you talk about like storylines, you need to be like not biased.
yeah,
Of course, there can be a favorite team. That's normal. If the team is better than the other, they will be the favorites, right?
yeah.
But basically, you need someone who knows this shit, who knows who's good, who knows what's the matchups. Like, I don't know. For example, let's say the I don't know, like let's say the Yoshel group participated to a league,
Mm-hmm.
and their opponent is like I don't know, like let's say it's Moonlight versus Yoshel's pickup.
Mm-hmm.
The storyline could be like a slight domination towards Yoshel's like pickup group, but we've seen Moonlight make like extreme comebacks slash surprise people.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that, you can cook so much things. Because since you know that the sets can be close, you can hype it up and be like, will they do it again? How will they do it? Like, is today the day? Like, that's like so stupid, right? But like,
That's what would
someone
work.
who's
Yeah,
like good at it can make something good out of it.
yeah,
Sadly, Splatoon is that kind of game where like you don't have much to work with. So you have to do the best with what you have in your hands.
mm-hmm.
That's kind of how you have to cook, right?
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense too. And having someone that's able to bring that hype, because I mean, I've watched a handful of tournaments, and sometimes like no fault to some of the commentators, but some of them aren't as entertaining or interesting when it comes to some parts of the tournament that you're watching. But if you have somebody
Yeah.
that could be the analyst type of to bring in that hype, and then you have hype commentators that are able to bring it follow up with that hype that the analyst just dropped on you. Kind of like how with 20XX League when I did the player interviews as well as the kind of like quote unquote analyst desk. It was kind of like predictions with Popgun 9 and Kbot. It's like we were bringing a lot of this like attraction and being able to hype it up, and it went right into the commentators, which I think was Popgun and Falco, that continued bringing that hype along with it. Like, oh, you just heard these players say this about each other, this about that, and here's what we thought before. Like, let's see if we can continue it. Like keep riding that momentum, basically. Like you're helping keep the momentum flowing.
I agree. I think like what's it called? Um oh what did I want to what did I want to say? Well, let me think a bit.
You're good.
Um for me the whole challenge of creating those storylines, right? Is that you have to create a form of rivalry, and I think that's the toughest part
Mm.
because um the the two teams of people playing need to have like a history
Yeah.
of like playing against each other.
Mm.
Or what made it really good as well for Ink TV, like you said, is that like the post and the pre-game videos, or like the pre-game, like where they sent a player of each team and they were like, I think we'll win. Fuck those guys. See, like, I know, like, I'll take the example of our set. I know, like, Urza was interviewed and he was like, oh, yeah, I came back to Splatoon after a few years. I think we've got what it takes. And then I think it was Brand on the other side being like, oh, we're chill outside of the game, but in game, we're not friends. We're not here to be friends.
Yeah.
I think we can beat them. And like it's like wholesome rivalry, but it sets the ground for something better, right?
Definitely.
And then when you win, you get the post game interview of like the team captain. And in our case, we won, and Gray just went on the fucking podcast, and he's just like fucking sure, like I don't know, bro. It's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Like, and also I don't remember who commentated the game. I think it was, I forgot his name. Um, what's his name? Wait, let me check because I don't want to
Mm.
make a mistake.
You're good. I just had an idea. Like, because like, what if like you started with creating already like a basis initiative of like NA versus EU, and what if you formed like the groups per se is NA players gotta play with NA players, EU's gotta play with EU players, and just to start, right? Just as a starter. Obviously, there's different like regions you could always try to throw in the mix too, but like just as a starter, you're
That's
already
really tough.
you're already starting that kind of like I know because of the weapon pool thing, right?
Yeah.
But like as a starter, just to get things like interested in like who would be able to top, right? Would it be certain NA pickups who again it's still a race of like who's gonna DM first, but now you're restricted to only your region versus
Yeah, I agree.
EU, who again would have to like find their pickups. And like that way it's like I know you'll have Moonlight who's primarily NA, so like they take that first team spot of like a well known team, but now you're forcing a complete region locked team to have to play together for 4 or 5 weeks to get to know each other and build up more and work together to not just obviously maybe beat other NA teams, but also at the end of it, fight EU. Can you prove that you can, win it for NA?
Yeah, like I think what's I think what's like so good about that format, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like some teams are newly like formed, or weren't expecting to like get qualified.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically have 5 weeks to make the best out of it, right?
Yeah.
Mm. And like I think this gives so much like upset potential. I during Ink TV, for example, there are something, well, for any top player watching this stream, I do not recommend doing this. Please don't do that. Where we were dodging certain teams, because in our case, for example, Alliance Rogue, we ran our little carbon splash neo combo, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we didn't really want people to adapt to it because first of all, that was like my first new appearance, like a major appearance in top level.
That's right. Yes, because you recently joined
Yeah,
AR at the time.
yeah. I was basically like that was my first step into like the huge top level, like not the mid top level. Like that was really
No,
like
the
top of
top
the
of the
top.
top. Yeah.
I was basically like a slash like quote unquote rookie,
Yeah.
and like that led to like crazy things, right? And I think that format forces people to kind of like cook and have to like strategize without telling too much about it, without revealing too much, and try to like do their best. Like I don't know, there's so much good things out of it, man. It's like it's so tough at the same time because how would you like make it work? The last edition had so much hype.
Yeah.
First of all, because the production was insane. The casters were insane. I just checked and it was KBot 9, like those kind of casters. And I
Yes.
know
Yeah.
these guys are like so passionate about the game.
Yeah.
Like KBot during those like intense sets, that guy turns into fucking Eminem, man. Like he's just going at it.
He
And it's like
does.
understandable. Like you know what's going on.
The
That's the
Eminem of
craziest part, right?
casters. Yeah.
I swear. Like this guy makes the game hype. Even for people who don't know what's going on.
Yeah. He's just got that like serious but like hype tone to it because like he like locks in his voice. It's so funny. You could like tell.
No, I agree. And I know because I've watched my set countless of fucking times. And like
As you
it's
should.
always crazy. Yeah, like hey man, I don't win much in my career, so gotta make
I
gotta make
feel
the
that
most
one.
of it, bro. Gotta make the most of it, bro.
I feel that.
Well, yeah, basically like I think the standards are high, but they're not impossible to reach.
Definitely.
I think we can cook something. We just need to get the best out of every world to collab together. I know Prochara has like insane reach. This guy has like every connection in the world.
Yeah.
So he could probably like make it happen, as in like making TOs aware or like spreading the word. But at the same time, the only downside of my opinion being said right now is that it could be an insanely biased. Like maybe I'm the only person who thinks that will be a good idea, you know? Like I don't know if the other top players will fuck with that,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think most people like the event. But I genuinely think like even if we don't do something like alike to Ink TV, I think we can still get it can only be positive to get everyone to like speak with each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like worst comes to worst is like let's say like that like hidden league idea is popped out there. At the end of it all, like you'd still have a prize pool that somebody can win. You would still have
Yeah.
games to be played. You would still get that practice for top players that still want to like, play the game and get some kind of practice. You can have a win on your belt. Like you might not like the way it is, but at the end of the day, it's like you could still be walking away with cash. You could still be walking away with a win on it and being like, I beat this person again. Like I wish I could, or like I wanted to.
Yeah.
And also you get the viewership, right? That's another huge thing. It's like you get people coming to your streams or just watching the set, cheering you on, things like that. Like it's it's an experiment that like again that where it comes down to everyone needs to play their part in it just to try it. Even if at first it doesn't
Yeah.
seem interesting, just try it. The worst that happens is that you played Splatoon like you were going to anyway.
Oh, I agree. And like what's it called? The thing with I think the conclusion of all of it comes down to tournaments need to adapt to the current situation of the game where they need to try and find solutions with us on how to make teams.
Yeah.
Because we as players, all we can do is like be like, hey man, want to make a team? Yes, no, right? But like realistically, the formats of tournaments don't really push you to make a team.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem, quote unquote, because like that's not what a tournament is meant to be for, right? But at the same time, I think like we've reached a state of the game where it's kind of like, hey man, we're kind of like starving for something to happen,
Hmm.
where we're kind of forced to reach out and be like, hey guys, could you help us fix the issue we cannot fix ourselves
Yeah.
by making basically like formats more prone to building teams.
Hmm. And having to stick to them for like a period of time too.
Yeah, that's why. Okay, that's why the idea of draft is not that bad of an idea.
Hmm.
Why? Because draft makes people play with new people. Downside: some people don't like each other. So if they're put with certain people, they just won't like the game.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, it's a risk that needs to be taken. You know, like
Hmm.
I don't know how to explain, but we need something that would ally players together and make people discover new talents, being like, oh, maybe that guy can make a team with me. He seems to be greater than I expected, actually.
Hmm.
Or people who will have never played together actually get to play together, and they're like, oh, that guy is actually like really good. I didn't know that guy before. Maybe I can like put a bit of spotlight on him. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, force the engagement and
Yeah,
experimentation instead of just being like it's kind of almost like instead of putting it in like the hands of top level players to make those teams they want to, kind of force the idea of you're gonna play with these three other players, you're gonna deal with it for 4 weeks, and then you can go your separate ways if you really wish to.
yeah. And like I said, see, because like that way of saying it seems like a bit like not encouraging.
Yeah, no, yeah, but you gotta like hype it
That's
up
why
more.
we need to do the fucking kids let you stick, like the kids
Yeah.
with letters technique. You need to hide the forced by the hand, like hand forced by something cool. You need to make them believe that they're gonna go for a cool ride with a cool reward
Yep.
and with good investment on both sides.
Hmm.
And then everyone will be like, okay, well, give it a try, right? Like there's no other things going on right now, so let's play it.
Yeah.
But the biggest job from the TO side will be making it and making top players appeal to it.
Hmm.
And I feel that's when the last point about tournaments I wanted to make is um to make teams. I think this is something that needs to be really directed towards top players,
Hmm.
because I don't see mid levels or low levels having trouble making damage teams,
Hmm.
because there's so much more players and so much more weapons, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But in our case, no matter how much players or people we get, since the traction is always around the 20 best, we don't really get to see new things or get new teams.
Hmm.
Hence why those kind of tournaments at first will need to be like directed towards top level. And if they work for us, and I think I stand by the logic, if a tournament works for top level, you can adapt it to whoever the fuck you want it to be for, it'll work the same way.
Hmm.
Because I feel like top players have like standards that are like high, despite not really mentioning it ever.
Hmm.
The like there's still some expectations somehow. And if the if like the top player, like if the event catered to top level works, you're most likely like guaranteed that it's gonna function for like other levels as well. And that's where you can adapt the tournament, like have a beta bracket or like a whatever, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, at first it needs to be like it needs to aim like our specific player level, or like a yeah, you understand.
Yeah, keep it like for right now in the start of it, keep the attention towards top level. And if
Yeah,
things
because
work well, feel free to like start slowly
yeah,
pushing it down the ladder.
because realistically, if top players make teams, I feel like people watch teams and then they're like, "Oh, I want a team." Because holy
Yeah.
shit, those guys are teams, and everyone's a team. And if everyone's a team, I need a team because I want to play against teams.
Hmm.
And I think also practice is better with teams. Playing against a team, playing against a team is always more beneficial to learn. I know in plus one sometimes you see things like scrim teams only,
Hmm.
which is like good luck finding, but like, hey man, I respect the hustle, because a pickup, there's many issues in a pickup when you scrim them. First of all, what if they start memeing? That happens a lot, more than you think probably,
Mm-hmm.
because well, people have nothing to lose. It's a pickup, so they just troll. They don't
Yeah.
really practice.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, when you finish the scrim, the pickup you've played against might never play against you again. So what did you truly learn? You can learn like major mistakes, but if you're in +1, most of like the mistakes you can fix by playing against anyone are most likely fixed. Or if they're not, you can like fix them along the way. But like the people you play against don't really matter.
Yeah.
But then for specific issues, you really want to play against teams because first of all, you're nearly guaranteed both teams will take it seriously. You can schedule easier because you just DM the same people all the time and be like, "Hey guys, can you play today at this time?" Yeah, scrim found, and then you just go like, "Oh yeah, we can." And finding scrims becomes way easier. And then like, there's no downsides to teams. Like that's the fucking problem. It's like there's no downsides, but nobody wants them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like the fact that we're praising not having teams because that's like what kills the scene.
Yeah.
That's I don't know. I guess my point of view on it, at least.
Yeah. No, I get it because I mean I could tell you from the perspective of being like a mid to low mid-level player, like in the era in the section of mid-level, like towards like the lower end, like I'm already seeing the pickup culture bleed into it. Like it's just something that's like coming down the chain, and it's because we're at a point right now where like a lot of top players do stream, and they always do see these
Yeah.
pickups from here and there, and obviously we see like the tweets of like these pickups that are forming for every other tournament, and
Yeah, I
because
get it.
top level has that such a big effect on way more than just what they do, but like what they play and such. Other
Yeah.
players who are lower level just see that and be like, if it works for them, I don't see why it wouldn't work for me. So that's why we've seen like you said before, like the Harshy group that plays in like pickups all the time, that has a huge group of
Yeah.
people. And like for me, like there's a handful of people that I've seen that mainly play in pickups rather than trying to form a team.
Yeah, like that's understandable. Is because, like I said, I think top players underestimate the consequences of our own actions
Mm-hmm.
on like the entire scene.
Yeah,
Because once we get teams, people want teams. Once we stop being like doing
wanting
teams,
teams.
nobody wants a team.
Yeah.
Because if the top level is not doing a team, then surely making a team is not the way to win. So we don't make a team.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue is like, yo, we need teams, guys. Like,
Yeah.
that's how the game lives. We need teams because teams are the core of the game. It's a fucking team game.
Yeah.
We don't just like not make teams. That's kind of like that's
It's,
counterintuitive.
as I say, it's redundant. It's against the whole point of it.
Yeah, like even then, like I don't understand why we're praising pickup culture so much. Like as someone who doesn't win shit, I'm frustrated
Mm-hmm.
because I don't win. People who do pickups often don't win. They see the same people winning, and instead of being like, let's make a team and get better, they're like, oh fuck it, I'll just DM someone else. But then they don't win, and they still say like they still stick to that like that way of thinking.
Yeah,
So
rather
like,
instead of like commit more time to it, it's like let me just
yeah,
keep gambling with different pickups until one of them clicks and works and does better. When
yeah,
that's not going to be the case. At some point, you're going to exhaust your options, and you just need to
yeah. I mean
make a
that's
team.
already happening.
Yeah.
So like it just keeps it's just a redundant circle of the same people all over and over again. And surprise, surprise, usually the reason why people win is because those are often people who have stuck together for a long time, aka Yoshel, Atomic, and that whole pickup group,
Mm.
because they've been having the same pickup forever. They're not like the other pickup groups. They don't change every fucking time they play a tournament. The only thing they change is like one player instead
Yeah.
of fucking three. So they're nearly a team. And guess what? They're winning. So like maybe we learn something out of that, is that maybe teams are the way to go. But then like how to convince people, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's just got to build that incentive of like that's when the creating the tournament aspect of it, or group or draft aspect out of it comes into play. That kind of forces that want or that idea of like, hey, like we want to build teams. If we're exhausting all of our pickup options, oh look, now there's something we could try it in. There's this huge tournament that's got good production, a good decent prize. W casters, and as long as they have a good, storytelling side of it, we should run it.
I agree. It's all about attracting people into
Mhm.
making teams, and that can be only solved by very few factors. And at the current time, those factors are sadly not really there. But
Mhm.
you can't blame anyone because it's a recent issue.
Yeah. It's just about finding the solution for it that we could start like trying to implement just to try to solve the problems at hand.
Yeah, I agree. Like that's the whole like challenge of the like current scene is like we need to rebuild.
Mhm.
I don't know when I don't know when we lost everything, but we need to rebuild, bro. Like
Yeah.
something happened. I don't know what was like the turning point, but I think I mean I know what it is. As a
Mhm.
top level player, I know what happened. Everyone should kind of be aware of what happened.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, it's not a hot take. It's just reality. I just don't know if I'll get like hated on stream if I say it.
It's like it's up
I'll
to
just say it
you.
anyways
Okay.
because I'm like the hot take warrior. We all know impact of Jackpot's ban over the competitive scene.
Yeah.
The lack of a real challenge has made a great impact over the game.
Mhm.
Despite you can hate them, love them, whatever the fuck, I don't really care. Um, their impact over the competitive scene was, well, as we can see, it did do something.
Yeah.
Even though, like, you will expect like people to move on, it doesn't really work like that, sadly, because in this era of the game we're in, um, we don't really get to like, we just don't really get to make the same things we used to be able to do before.
Mhm. Yeah, that like when Jackpot won, right? It was like the goal was there. There was a goal that there's someone now that has a crown that
Yeah,
that there's a goal to beat. There's somebody to beat. There's a
yeah,
team
there
that
was
to beat.
somebody to defeat, somebody to like dethrone.
Yeah. And ever since that moment in time, because there is no throne now, because there's no goal, there's nothing to fight for. So I think when it
Yeah,
comes to rebuilding,
nobody's winning because there's no team.
yeah,
So there's no domination. There's nobody to like dethrone. Everyone's winning and losing.
yeah. So when it comes to like that, like rebuilding, I feel it starts at the top, trying to create the throne again. The rebuilding the throne, like what is something that we can make players build that team for, that they can go again, like try to compete for, and then if they win it, couple months down the line, whenever, couple months, right? It's back again. Here's your chance. And of course,
Yeah, I
obviously, it
agree.
depends on like the time of year. And honestly, I think the summertime low key might be the best time of year to do it because that's when most people are off of school, and a lot of people right now, of course, playing Splatoon are in school. Um, you have that prime area that you could implement that, where it's like a summer throne that every year you could try to come back and compete for.
True. I mean, there's also like, I mean, you could say summer is the best time. It's kind of double edged sword because you also have the people who go on vacation.
That's true. Yeah.
So I feel like most tournaments are like builds in like September, kind
Hmm.
of like when people actually come back, and it's still like that kind of like break. You're still in that kind of like break vibe, but everyone's back on the game, back to like ready to grind after a fresh break.
Yeah.
Because the issue with putting that in summer is like there's already so much in the summer.
That's true. Yeah. That's a lot that goes on.
Despite like look, the winter and fall are like so empty nowadays.
Hmm.
Like there's no majors, no nothing being announced.
It's like a wintertime championship wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, because I think most countries get like a winter break.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. So it's like theoretically you have like a week period that you could really try
Because
to
like, look,
implement it.
you put the if the event will be like in a league, like league into playoffs, you put the league during like when people are in school because you can schedule, right?
Yeah.
And once break starts, you can start kind of like imposing when, like, which day it takes place on. So you can be like, okay, so this day, guys, schedule, please. And like, since everyone's on break, everyone has like time to like play the game
Mm-hmm.
and actually participate. I think that's kind of how it has to function. I mean, that's how it can function.
Yeah, that would
Can you
work.
hear me?
Yeah, that would work. I think that would
Yeah.
be. I think the one tricky part will obviously be like. I think you have to do it similar how you have it like I don't know if like every week, but maybe bi-weekly for like the group sections, just because of like obviously some timings, like because you're only gonna really have like probably most
Yeah.
players have week only the weekend days they can try to do it, but yeah, like wintertime a lot of times like there's not a lot of traveling going on. Like most people should be home anyway, so even if it's like
Yeah.
every 2 weeks, like you're gonna compete on this day, ideally, if not, we'll like try to schedule a time during the week for it. You'll be able to put that into effect.
Yeah. I mean, I think it can be worked on, right? Like, I know for Ink TV, for example, there was like a whole vote for like who's more inclined to play during the weekend, who can play during the week, and then we just match certain people with certain people.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I think like we've kind of like managed to discuss about every side of the problem.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be like so large, but I guess since we've went over like most of the stuff,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to like get slightly away from the tournament stuff and like get another subject going, I'm down. If you have any, we can still go about the tournaments if you still have questions. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to like go on to something else, we can probably cook as well. I think
Yeah, I mean,
it's
like
up to you.
we really did hit a lot of like the different points that I had like set up because a lot of it does really revolve around like what we talked about with the tournaments, right? It's like tournaments is one aspect of a larger problem. And that's where a lot of things I have like I've written down of like pickups and team cultures, productions, prize pools, yeah, you name it. And it really like trickles down. That's what the community needs right now. Is just a lot of unison efforts from all sides.
Yeah,
And I think right now, like that's one of the biggest like topics of what this really was is like looking at top level. I know like this was called Stay Up Top Level, but a lot of it does revolve around all those affected by just one kind of tournament idea.
yeah. I think like that's the challenge, right? It's like nobody really expects it to be like a group effort.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's kind of sitting in their own like side and expecting everyone to like do something out of it
Yeah.
instead of trying to like get along together and try to work on it. Everyone's like kind of like, damn, why are these guys not doing this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like on one side it's like oh it's like it's a top players like situation, but then it's like it's a TO situation, then it's like oh it's a production situation. It's like it's really every side. It's everyone's got to put in the effort for it. I think that's with everyone having if they all put their 2 cents in for it is what can really
Yeah, it'll
change
work.
things around. Yeah, like I think that's what like be if the TOs work with top level and work with production, we can start building back up that top level feel of like hey, people miss
Yeah,
teams. We could build teams back up from that. Hey, we miss like high production tournaments. Take your time and like push certain TOs together. Give up on those like smaller ones that don't have that many, like maybe 7 teams that compete, into more production based items for types of prize pools. You could reach out to artists, build up over time like a prize pool that you could put together so that there's more incentive. Like a lot of the problem just boil down to just everyone needing to put in their own side.
yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing with most games I've played at least is that like the once you get into like top level, the problems like inside the game itself, like the way functioning,
Mm.
gets really difficult. Like people start to wonder, like, how do we fix our game? How do we fix the scene? Like and such, right?
Yeah.
And those are fair questions because like, who will not want to fix the scene and just have like a lively scene with everyone like making teams and such?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, like everyone wants it because then you have like content, and everyone loves content, and players get to play.
Absolutely.
And I think that's legit to want that.
Someone in the chat does ask, does anyone in top level actually want to work with TOs? Sometimes it feels it's hard to get a hold of them.
I mean, yeah, my reply to that will be ambiguous.
Mhm.
I will simply reply that not everyone is made to do that.
Yeah.
As in, some people, some people are just not like, they're just here to play. I know it can be frustrating. You just got to get a hold of the right people.
Mhm.
I know most of the influent people will be down.
Yeah.
Sadly, you will never get like a 100% like of the people to work with you because some people work, some people have studies, some people are just like Splatoon is not their priority anymore, but they still want the game to be somewhat good. It's all about finding the right people to like fix the game, right?
Yeah.
Me personally, I would say like, despite me giving my opinion currently, I would be down to make efforts, but I know damn well that there's people like around that would probably make a way better job than me because I know that despite me having like opinions and ideas, I'm not always like the best person to like reach out and such because I don't have that kind of connections besides like top level. That's the only connections I have.
Mhm.
But like I know there's where like way more qualified people, and these people can genuinely like cook, right? Like I
Yeah.
trust them. As long as I can get the idea going and motivate people to like move towards a better like future for the game, then I think it's a win-win for everybody.
They kind of brought them asking that question brought on an idea to me. So like I know something that a lot of um this will probably be one of the last topics. I know we're already like over like 2.5 hours, so I don't want to take up more of your
No,
time.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
But when it comes to I guess like the content side of top level,
Yeah.
is it really just there's not like an interest by top level players to make like it could be any type of content, right? It could be like I don't know, like ideas how they see the game. Like I know Kio's recently been kind of delving into that content side on YouTube a little bit more on like how certain comps work, how they play against certain play styles and weapons. But universally against top level, is there like not like a want to help make certain types of content that could either help maybe themselves or other players that are lower level.
Mm, I think
Like
it's
a mix,
kind
I
of
guess, right?
difficult because to make that okay, me personally, I think it's a trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when I started streaming, which I don't stream much anymore because my laziness is getting to me,
Feel that.
but my content is, and I always admitted it, my content is catered towards top players. Top players,
Yeah.
as in, I'm down to explain stuff to like an understandable level, but I've never hidden the fact that I'm aiming a precise player base that usually understands and fucks with what I do, right?
Yeah.
Some other people manage to do both. Kyo is an exception.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you had to use words in those kind of like things, Kyo will be considered as like an anomaly to like content
Mm-hmm.
because that's the effect of people being there for a long time. Like, see, for example, you've probably seen you probably know like I mean that's a stupid question. You know Kiver.
Yeah,
You know
100%.
Kiver. There's no
Absolutely.
way you don't know Kiver.
Yeah.
Kiver is Kiver is the perfect example of what being an OG brings to you.
Yeah.
He's been in so much communities. Will it be Mario Kart, Splatoon? You can call it. He was a top player. He his content attracts everyone because he's been on huge teams with huge influence.
Mm-hmm.
He's also a figure, like a kind of figure for like French Splatoon, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So see, this gives him like the advantage of being able to gather to both groups. Most casual streamers or like people who don't make like insane efforts will not like attract these like both player bases, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, I don't know if you take any top player, like take me and Goss for example.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a really like that active chat like every other streamer does, but every time we see that there's top players lurking in our chat because we know that like our content aims towards like people who know us, and those people are the guys who are like good, right? And
Yeah.
then you have people like Prochara, Kyo-chan, Piver. Back then you had Dude. Who else can I say? I guess Jackpot for a while managed to connect both, but that's kind of like an exception because they were world champions.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's really rare that content is able to reach out to both categories of players while being positive for both. Because
Yeah.
realistically, it's so hard to fit competitive um, expectations when you're like talking to lower level players, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could say like the things that are being said are already like well known by people. The only difference is that like Chara's content sometimes focuses on a way more analytic part of the game that even top players don't make the effort to like look up, and it's kind of understandable. You can kind of see like for having spoken to Pro Chara about different patch notes of the game, um, there was one player I could compare him to, um, Mewtwo King, basically
Yeah.
kind of the Mewtwo
Yeah.
King of Splatoon. He's kind of like okay, I don't know if Chara's on the podcast. I say this in like the most friendly way. He's kind of like the nerd friend everybody fucks with.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's get like bro's a bit smart, but we fuck with him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I know that like I don't know, like his content manages to hit both sides, right? But that's
Mm-hmm.
so rare. Like
Yeah.
people underestimate how complicated it is to like reach out for so much. So to reply to your question about like how to make content to like attract and like make it more appealing for each like part of the game, will it be mid level, top level, low level? Is that the reality of the story will be like once again it will have to be a collaboration of different people who are able to reach each sides of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The thing is like okay, if you take Prochara, you basically have the casuals. For top level, it's kind of easy because all it needs is one top player to attract all top players.
Yeah.
The easiest answer will be Kyo and Prochara. Kyo caters all the top players and some casuals. Prochara gets most of the casuals, small amount of top players. But then they will have to like find an ID that will fuse both and that will attract both. That's a challenge, but I can see them cook. They're both like inventive kind of people,
Mm-hmm.
really smart. They can probably do it, right? But once again, it comes down to the idea of like it's really difficult, and I think it's a good thing to try, but we cannot have high expectations since it is a really challenging aspect of the game.
Yeah.
Because content creation was okay. Let's be real. Um, Back then, being a top player on Splatoon never involved having to be a content creator.
Yeah. No.
It's something that is really new.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that like top players were never like intended to have those like we were not prepared to have such an influence over the game. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we have some influence over like it's easy for us to like be understandable about like oh we know that we're gonna affect the meta
Yeah.
because we're the best players. But like who could have known that we'd have such a big impact over like everything else?
Mm-hmm.
Like bringing people together and whatever. Like realistically, you could think that like some people are selfish and they will be like, "Oh, we're just here to play the game," and that would be respectable
Mm-hmm.
because we've kind of reached the point we're at by playing the game. So you can't even blame people for just being like, "Oh, I play the game. I want to play the game," because that's kind of what it's all about. The whole part of like, like having Twitter, having Twitch, and like animating both, making certain takes,
Mm-hmm.
taking certain positions. That's I wouldn't say that's like new at the core, but that's something people weren't used to. And you can easily see that if you go some years back, where people were like more comfortable, certain like saying certain things, like being way more open about their criticism and everything, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, people are more considerate about what they say, about which position they take in any kind of arguments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, it's really good, right? But I'm just saying, like, not everyone is used to that kind of things, especially the new top players, right? That's why I was advising like people like Keo, Kiver, like those guys have been there for a while, so they know what they're doing
Yeah.
basically. And also, those people have worked with like sponsorships in the past. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're like really like when it gets to being serious with these people, they know what they're doing. That's what I was saying when I was saying like not everyone is made to discuss or help those kind of projects because some people realistically just want to like play the game.
Yeah. That's fair. I
But
think that answers it pretty well,
yeah,
honestly.
if you have any other questions, I'm down. I really have whatever amount of time. My uni starts really late tomorrow, so I'm down. Even if it means like 1 more hour, I don't care.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's all I personally have. I mean, if there's anything else you personally want to talk about, I'm down. But I mean, we've hit most of my marks. That I really had. I feel like that some other people were always curious about. So I do want to give you a huge thank you for coming on and talking. I mean,
Yeah, there's no problem.
absolutely goaded.
It was kind of funny how it happened as well.
Yeah.
We can give a small shout out to Thunder for attracting me to the podcast because the only reason I joined is because I saw him being in there and being like, oh wait, what's that?
Yeah.
So shout out to Thunder. But yeah, I think my single opinion will not make things move too much, but
Hmm.
I think there's people on the stream that I've seen in the viewer. Like I checked who's watching. I know there's like some influent people who are hearing me right now,
Hmm.
and I know I can place my trust in those people to manage something that I probably cannot, and I am willing to help if necessary, right?
Absolutely.
And for further subjects that I want to talk about, I don't really know because I don't really have anything to speak about that would be like that will have a global influence over the
Hmm.
game.
Yeah.
If the chat has questions, I guess we can go over stuff right now since we're like free to answer whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. We can direct chat. If anyone's watching, if you have any questions you'd like to type on out for Volty or I, feel free. Could be general questions or specific questions. Actually,
Even if it only
I have one
even if
actually
it
for
doesn't.
you.
Oh really?
What made you go
For
to
sure.
Carbon?
Okay.
I
Well,
just thought
you're
about
gonna be
this.
really disappointed.
It's okay. It's okay.
um
This is just for fun for chat to think of questions.
yeah, sure. Well, let's say 9-year-old Volty or 8-year-old Volty, I don't remember.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm very young. I played Splatoon 1 since day 1 release.
Hmm.
Um I didn't have a main back then. Carbon came out. I bought it in the shop when it released, right from the news, because that was when the content being released was uh like always the same. I think it was like 2 weapons per week or something like that.
Hmm.
And Carbon came out, and I was like, damn, let's try this weapon. So I'm playing Carbon. I'm like, oh wow, Carbon, so fun. I'm like killing everyone in one shot. I'm invisible because Ninja Squid is broken. I can throw 4 burst bombs, and my weapon has like huge damage and a fun special. Let's play this. And even though on Splatoon 1 I was a Charger and Carbon main,
Hmm.
it happens that on Splatoon 2, Charger felt awful. The way the way the scope felt to me felt like absolute horrible. And I was like, you know, like I'm not gonna play that. So my weapon pool went down to carbon
Mm.
and only that. And I found my happiness with carbon. And on Splatoon 2, I always said like I can tell you a few of the things I wanted to have on Splatoon. Like my career goals, if you will call them that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted people to know me. Like when people speak about carbon, I wanted people to know that I was like the reference. It's a very egotistical goal that I wanted when I was really bad at the game, which caused me a lot of trouble when I was like public about it. But hey, I worked hard for it. I got
Yeah.
it. Alongside Omega. Omega, who's also okay. I will say this. Um, People often speak about me and Omega, and I will say a really controversial take, XD. Um, Even though we're both carbon one tricks, you'd be surprised, but we play very different playstyles. So despite people comparing us for like the spots of like who represents carbon, he plays a playstyle that I am not able to play, and I think it's vice versa to a certain extent, right?
Hmm.
So I think I shared the spot with that guy because we're both good at what we're doing, and I could probably not reproduce what he does at the same scale, and I believe it goes the same way, like the opposite way, right? Like we're good at what we're doing, and I respect that. There's no rivalry or whatsoever,
Yeah.
or if there's one, it's only in game. So that was one of my goals. My second goal happened unexpectedly, and I know it's only a top level thing. Due to Ink TV, once again, there's on Flounder, there's like uh you know how the map works, right? Like you know how it
Yeah.
looks. So you have the like main wall that climbs directly to the zone, and
Hmm.
that one other wall that goes like under. And there's like a wall in between that leads from the far bottom to like the zone, but like from another angle. And due to me abusing that wall with my weapon, which basically gives free retakes every time someone's not aware, like I've heard people call it the Volty wall, and I was like, yo, that's so cool, because I've always wanted a spot on the map to have my name on it.
Yeah.
Uh, I was not expecting that map because at first I really disliked it,
That's fair.
but hey, I cooked, and here we are, and I love it. I'm all down for it. I know this is self glazing, but I'm really happy.
No, that's completely understandable. It's such a cool thing to have like a term built in around
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. And my third goal is still unreached, and I don't know when it will happen. Um, I want to win a major.
That's valid. No, that's a valid one.
I think that's the most important one, but it still hasn't happened once. So, hey guys, if there's anyone in the chat who wants to play with me, guys, and we can win a major, please reach out. But yeah, that's basically like my big three of
Yeah.
like the stuff I wanted to do. So like most of it is out of the way. So my
Hmm.
main focus is just like on winning.
Nice.
Now we have to win.
Yeah, like that. Now you have to, so that way, like,
Now,
we can make a banger edit referring back to this.
yeah. Now we just have to win because that's the only thing that matters at this point of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think someone
Oh,
has a question in chat.
yes. So, do you think new teams are good enough to go toe to toe with older slash stronger players? The teams winning weeklies. I wonder how they stand with top level.
Um. Okay. There's one realistic opinion about it, and I will put it down in a way that is the least judgmental.
Mhm.
Um. There's a difference between teams that win weeklies and teams that don't in tournaments. It's visible. The people who win the like little weeklies every time, they're slightly better. Like you can see, it's like the sets are more close. I know recently I've played a set against, I don't know who it was. I think it was like I don't know if it was Mocha or Archie or they both at the same time. They actually played really well. Like I said on stream, I think I was surprised because I've played against them multiple times. Sometimes it happens to be like a normal set, like where you like expect us to win, and sometimes like toe to toe, and I'm like, damn, those guys are actually like making progress. But to a realistic extent, I think these players need to get uh something better than a weekly experience to win against top players, because realistically, what comes down at the end in those toe-to-toe sets is how people manage pressure of being close to win or being down games. And I believe you don't learn that much from weeklies, especially if you're stomping them,
Hmm.
because nobody's putting a challenge on you, realistically, right?
Yeah.
But once these people will get to like play top level, be challenged, find themselves in those situations of disadvantage where they have to win or it's cooked, and they get to like adapt to it and understand what makes top players, they can probably like be really challenging for like the known good players. But that takes a lot of time. So you can't expect too much out of those people.
Yeah, I think that's valid. They had a follow up saying how would they get that challenge, or who would they fight if the teams aren't there. I feel like that's just a case again referring back to just like tournaments, right? It's just like
Yeah,
presenting the option that hey, here's that tournament. You have to fight to compete for that spot.
yeah. And as well, like I think in that case, pickup culture doesn't really matter, because no matter who you're fighting, if they're +1, if they're composed of 4+1 players, they're all experienced no matter what.
Hmm.
So it'll be the same. They might be weaker than an actual team from +1, but you learn the same things from it when it comes to like handling pressure. Because I can tell you that for a long time, at least for myself, um, I had a hard time playing against like big names, because I would play differently when I would see like really strong players in my games. I would be like them. But now that I've gathered more experience, especially with Alliance Rogue, that does not happen to me anymore.
Hmm.
And I feel like that is applicable to many teams, despite them, even if they will tell you like, oh, we don't get pressure from big names, we don't really get affected. Realistically, you still play different. If you're not like, I don't know how to explain, but like this is such like a self-awareness thing. You'll
Yeah.
know it when you feel it. It's not something you can like judge about yourself. It's kind of like the same thing. I don't know. I have a really good example for it, but it's like so far-fetched. It's like, wait, how old are you, Cactus?
I am 23.
Okay. When you were a teenager, did you get like acne?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you also went through that stage of your life where you're like, oh, I won't get complexes out of having like stuff over my face, and then you still felt it no matter what you told yourself?
Yeah. It's like
Okay,
the what is it? It's
it's
like
the
the
same
hidden
thing. It's the
awareness.
same
Yeah.
thing. No matter how much you tell yourself it's not gonna happen, if you're not used to that exposure, you're gonna feel it, or
Hmm.
your gameplay is gonna be affected. Even
Yeah.
if you like, you can lie to yourself how much you want. If you don't have the experience, it'll be visible.
Yep. I know I always
That's,
feel it whenever I compete at like lands. It's like everyone always says like, "Oh, like I don't get the jitters," or like I always lock in. It's like my thing that's always like seeing is how the player's movement is when they're playing, because you could see from the get go the second they launch out the shakiness in their hands, and that's something you cannot hide.
I mean, there's a scene of me at French champs falling in the water at the start of the game because it was game 5.
Yeah.
Nobody knows it. Nobody saw it on stream, but it happened because it was my second LAN of my life, and I had to compete on game 5 for the French champion title. And I was
Yeah.
basically like trying to sneak in on like what map was it? It was Mahi Mahi.
Hmm.
So I'm like holding the ledge, and I move my stick by accident, and I just fall in the water. And I'm basically panicking in my head, right? And if I
Yeah.
didn't have experienced teammates to be like, "Yo, man, chill and play the game,"
Hmm.
I would have probably choked the entire fucking game. But now that I've played like what, around 6, 7 lands, I don't get that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm I'm my composure stays put, but like no matter what, it's all experience. You can't really lie to yourself about it. I
Yeah.
mean, you can try to convince yourself if that works for you,
Yeah.
but realistically, if I were to play against like Starburst, FT-Win at lands, which these guys have like twice my line experience, they'd probably fuck me over as well. Even if I'm like supposed to match their level, right?
Yeah.
I'd probably get shit on because they play way more lands than me and they know what it feels like.
This is like a random question I just thought of. I've asked a couple players this or people this because this is something that's always
Yeah.
been on the back of my mind as like the months have gone by the past like 2 years. Do you think personally there's an age limit to getting to the top?
No. I mean, I can use so much examples for that.
Hmm.
Okay, in our scene, Kiver was a top player.
Yeah.
Maybe not anymore or not as invested anymore, but
Hmm.
Kiver is 27 years old.
Hmm.
And Kiver was pretty damn good for someone his age.
Yeah.
You can see Fuzzy as well. I mean, Fuzzy's not really competing anymore, but he's also like 27, 28 years old.
Yeah.
Most players are like 24, 23. I think there's no real age to begin.
Hmm.
You can see like people like Samokado being like extremely young and being
Yeah.
talented. I think that happens. I mean, you're more used to like younger players being talented. I don't know why, but that's kind of a culture.
I think it's because of like the free time too,
Yeah,
compared
yeah.
to
But
as you're
like
older. But I get that. Yeah,
the
I see it.
difference the difference between young people and older people when it comes to comp is like young people are gonna play.
Yeah.
Play, 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 play. Older people are gonna play less, but they know how to convert the time they're putting into actual value
Hmm.
because they're adults. They understand a bit more like what goes on behind like the thought process.
Yeah.
That's why I noticed when I joined Alliance Rogue as well. Like back then I would just play, 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 play. I'd be good because I played a lot. And I joined a team with like I was like 17, Dre was 21, Urza was 21, Kiver was like 26 at the time. And you see the difference of like mentalities when we scrim, how much time is being put into analysis compared to the time being put into playing the game.
Yeah.
Like the more you get better, the less you play, the more you analyze. If you have a team, if you have a pickup, that's like don't listen to me.
Yeah.
I mean, you can like self review, but like you have to know how to do it and be have a good criticism about yourself, or you're gonna crash out. And I don't
Don't
advise that.
recommend that. Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
overall, I think age doesn't matter when it comes to becoming a top player, as long as you know what you're doing and know how to put the time in efficiently. That's mostly it.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Eases my own anxiety for that.
I was about to say, like, are you asking that because you're reaching Unk status? Like,
Low key, yeah. I won't lie. Like I'm picking up, like for example, the best example. Like recently, I started picking up 52. After play because I'm a shooter player. If it wasn't clear.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, I see the big T deck on your PFP, so
so I was like, I'm playing and I'm like, obviously, like I have a year on playing shot versus like only a month on 52, and a part of me is like, damn, am I too old for this?
I mean, I mean, there's an example that is like way. I mean, once again, I will go back to my little game, favorite game outside of Splatoon.
Hmm.
If we watch League of Legends, Faker, which is like I think most people know Faker, right? Like
Yeah,
face of the esports, 5 times world champion now.
yeah, most well
Faker,
known.
I think Faker is 28 years old, and I can tell you that League of Legends takes way more skill than Splatoon
Yeah, that's
on so
fair.
many different levels, and this guy still got it, bro. This guy
Yeah,
still has it in him, bro. Like even though like there's so many like even in sports, bro. Look at fucking LeBron.
that's
Isn't he
true.
fucking 39?
Yeah, that's true.
Like that guy literally spawned his own teammate by this time, bro, and he still got it. Like I don't think age matters as long as you're like as you know what you're doing in the competitive scene.
You're so right. You're so right.
Like there's so many like examples.
Oh my gosh.
Fucking
That's true.
LeBron, bro. I did not expect mentioning LeBron in Splatoon.
Dude, for real. No, the spawn his own teammate was a crazy buyer. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, it's kind of real.
You're not wrong. Oh, I was not
He
ready for
did
it.
he did make something that nobody did before.
Oh my god.
And you know that the fun fact is that there's actually an happening of that in the French scene. There's a team where it's like a dad and his son playing the game.
No way.
I'm not even kidding, bro. I think it's like ASC, but I don't know which one.
That's kind of based
But
though.
there is a father and son team. That's all I can tell you.
I love that. I'm here for that.
It's fire. Though I will not. I will say that there's really funny scenarios that are coming up to my head if they lose a set.
That dinner table is gonna be real quiet.
You missed the clam in overtime, bro. You're not getting fucking dinner, bro. Go to bed.
Yeah. Oh my god.
You don't get to sit at my table. I scored.
You get no
Holy
dessert
fuck.
tonight. You get no dessert.
Dude, imagine your dad comes to your room like, okay, play solo queue. I'm gonna VOD review you.
Yeah.
And he's just like behind your shoulder, like, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Like,
Just
I
like
think
judging over your shoulder every
I
move.
would be so terrified. Dude,
I
it's so
can't.
funny though. I can't lie. It's like so wholesome and so funny at
It
the same time.
is.
Like,
Well, imagine getting
oh
grounded
my
because you
god.
missed a checkpoint.
You get grounded because you didn't paint the zone.
Yeah.
Cooked, bro. Like, what if you get it? What if you get 2+2 and your dad doesn't, bro? Do you just give him your account? Like,
Yeah, let him get it to get the experience.
like once you're at school, he gets on your fucking PC and he's like, okay, guys, +3.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I'm the same version as my son, but like 10 years older, guys. Trust me.
I'm just as good, I swear. The genetics passed down.
Guys, the skills goes in the fucking DNA, guys. Trust.
No, Splatoon
My
in the
fucking
DNA.
god, bro.
Oof.
That's fucking insane if you think about it.
Oh man, I need to like find a father son duo in or father daughter duo in Splatoon and just like hear it. I just need to get the interview for that. What's it like when y'all lose a tournament?
Dude, imagine you're interviewing them and you just hear them through each other's mics, bro. Like,
Oh
I don't
my
know. That would be so
god.
fucking funny to me. Holy
Honestly,
fuck.
that'd be insane, but it'd be so perfect.
Bro, please, actually, you know what you should do if you do that? Please make them interview on the same fucking account and they just take
Yes.
turns with the headset, bro.
Yes. Oh, I'm so down. I have to. If anyone knows a parent-child duo in Splatoon, please send them my way. Please. That'd be a
It's so fucking
banger,
funny.
bro.
I can't fucking stop laughing, bro. Because it's 2 a.m. for me, so everything's just so much fucking funnier, bro. What the
Oh,
fuck?
yeah, I feel like it's like 8 o'clock for me, like at any time zone. Like I'm out of it. I'm gone.
Bro, it's 2 a.m. for me. Everything's fucking funny. My mind is like thinking about 15 fucking million things at the same time. I didn't know if there's like any questions still in the chat or whatever.
Not really. Just someone asking how long we've been yapping for, which it's like the time's there. It's almost 3 hours, but I
Yeah.
mean, I got nothing else, and if you don't really got anything else, I think it's safe to call it there.
Yeah, I think we've dealt with like a lot. I was not expecting 3 hours, but we cooked.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so then with that being said, Volty, thank you so much for coming on out and sharing your thoughts and your opinions on the variety of topics today, from the how top level looks for teams to, of course, tournaments in general. Um, Before we go, I'd love to give the floor to you to shout out yourself or anyone else you'd love to shout out. Like the mic is yours.
Um, I will ask before I give any shoutouts. What sort of shoutouts?
It could be anything.
Um,
It could be anything.
am I supposed to like vouch someone for perhaps interview, or am I supposed to just be like, hey, shout out to this person?
Oh, you could be like, like you shout out, like, follow my socials. You'd be like, shout out to my pickup group. Shout out to this person for like bringing this idea, like whatever
I,
you'd like.
I could make a shout out, but it's like it's very controversial because it's like political. But I'm down to do it. Um,
Like I said, the mic's
hey,
yours. Whatever you'd like.
hey, shout out to all my homies in America who are from the LGBTQ plus. I hope you guys make it out.
Yes.
And I hope you guys are taking the right precautions if you're in a red state. Please look out for yourselves. Um, I personally can't really do much from where I am, but I hope you guys are safe. And yeah, just be aware of what's about to happen, and try to inform yourselves on how to keep being yourselves, please, because don't censor yourselves over. I will not give my political opinion, even though it's kind of obvious. Um, just watch out for yourselves. That's
Mhm.
mostly it. That's my only message.
I love it. Absolutely. Well, with that said, if that's all you have, that's all I have as well. So, once again, huge thank
Yep.
you to you. And that will do it for this episode of the Cactus Patch, episode 22, the state of top level. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching and listening to us yap for about 3 hours.
At least we were productive.
So true. We got a lot out there, and a lot of amazing people have probably come and gone to listen to certain sections. So may they take the ideas and start running with them, and maybe we see some nice changes in the community. Who knows? Future's untold. A lot can happen. So thank you all for watching. That'll do it from us here. See you guys next time.
Bye bye.